Guys, what's going on? What is going on, people? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good. I hope everything is good wherever you are. What's good, people? There's a big fight tonight. Jake Paul. I might go live just for that fight as well, to be honest with you. Do a quick yes, Imi. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, people? What is going on? I hope you guys are well. Floyd is better than Floyd is better than Floyd is a better fighter. Manny is a greater fighter. Yep, I could agree with that. Yeah, press the like button, people. Holy Inferno, smash that like button, guys. It helps the algorithm. So everyone in the stream, smash the like button. I'd appreciate it. I don't know who's that. Who's this Facebook user? It doesn't. Why didn't it give me the name of the Facebook users that are on? I don't know why it doesn't give me the name. So Jose Ruiz says, how behind doing is everything in the United Kingdom? Do work today, exercise. Yeah, everything's good, man. I hope you're well as well. Hope you're good. Guys, get your questions in. Oh, what's going on, Dan? I hope you're good, man. Why doesn't it give me your name? It gives Jose's name. It don't give me your name. It just says Facebook user. But what's going on, Dan? I hope you're good. So it says Danny says here, Canelo is going to surpass Pacquiao after he retires. Canelo is going to surpass Pacquiao after he retires. I hope so. Let's see. I'm not sure. It's difficult to surpass Pacquiao, man. The guy's a icon, legendary 8 Division 1. Yes, Ram, what are you saying? It's good having you in here. It's good. Yeah, I'm good, Ram. You? Okay, James says, how can't Manny be the great fighter if he lost to Jeff Horn and now Ugas? Because Sugar Ray Leonard lost to a lot of great. He didn't. He lost a lot of fights. That doesn't mean he's not great. Sugar Ray Robinson lost 19 times, and he's probably he's definitely one of the greatest ever. So I don't know. I don't really agree with that, to be honest. So Lee Wright, what's going on, Lee? Yes, Imran Wagwan, it's Ram. Good man. Good speaking to you. I ain't spoke to you in ages, man. Message me in it. We'll do something. Yeah, Ram's my friend, actually friend from like childhood, really. But yeah, message me, man. Message me. We'll definitely do something. Holy Inferno says, because Pacquiao beat better opponents, Canelo only won against current pound for pound fighters, and that's only GGG. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Pacquiao beat like Cotto, Mosley, he beat De La Hoya, he beat Hatton, he beat some really good fighters. He beat Margarito. Yeah, he's beaten some really, really good fighters. So I'd have to agree with that. I do think Mayweather and Pacquiao fought better competition. Yeah, for sure. Danny says exactly, James. So, like I said, I don't think you can. I don't think you can say someone's not great just because they lost. You know, he's fighting tough competition. You can lose. Like I said, Sugar Ray Robinson lost 19 times. You know, and he's widely considered like the GOAT. So I don't know. I don't agree with that, to be honest. Xavier says Canelo is the greatest already. He is doing what Manny and Floyd never did, unify and fighting a lot of the undefeated fighters. Facts, pound for pound, GOAT. Fair enough. Fair enough. Smash the like button, peeps. I'd appreciate if you smash that like button. Let's get those likes up on the smash the like button. If you don't smash the like button on the if you haven't smashed the like button on the video, smash the like button on the videos as well. I'd appreciate it. Every time I put up a video up, if you can smash the like button, I don't always say it, but Yeah, if you can smash the like button, I'd appreciate it. James Deer is saying, okay, give you guys compare Manny to Sugar Ray Leonard or any of the old guys back in the day. Okay, guys, you can't compare Manny to Sugar Ray Leonard. Why? Why do you think you can't, James? Tell me why you don't think you can. Why can't we compare? Why can't we compare? Tell me why. So Jose Ruiz says Jake Paul is fighting tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna try going live for that as well. Let's see if I can go live for that. Do you think Jake Paul's gonna win? I think Jake Paul's gonna knock him out, to be honest. I think Jake Paul knocks him out. Just giving you my honest opinion, I think Jake Paul wins by knockout. What do you guys think? I think Jake Paul's gonna knock out Tyron Woodley. James Deere says, no, Manny beat guys like Oscar and Cotto when they were drained to fight at the weight class he wanted, but Floyd fought them at their weight class. Yeah, but Floyd also had a tougher time with them as well. So Mayweather struggled against Oscar De La Hoya. You know, that was a split decision. That could have arguably gone the other way, whereas Manny absolutely dismantled him. So you've got to look at it that. Look at the way Mayweather beat those guys. Look at the way Manny beat those guys. So, you know, it's hard to say because Manny definitely beat them in more conclusive fashion. That's for sure. Smash the like button, peeps. Everyone in the stream, if you can smash the like button. Okay, Jim Z says, I am a fan of Canelo, but Manny are on another level. I think he's saying Manny and Floyd are on another level. Yeah, I'd have to agree at the minute, but you don't know what Canelo's career is still going. Canelo's still going, so I don't know what he may go on to achieve. I think it's unfair to, you know, say what we don't know what Canelo may achieve. He may go on to achieve great things. So if he goes on to become undisputed at light heavyweight, will you still be saying that? I don't know. I don't know, Jim. So Jose says, on Showtime pay-per-view in the United States, what the hell? Who is Jake Paul fighting tonight against who? A former UFC light heavyweight champion. 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. So you guys in the States, it's going to be 4 p.m. for us. Holly Inferno says, yes, we can compare Barrera, Marquez, Morales were currently pound for pound, just like Hearns and Hagler and Duran. They were all in their prime and they were all Hall of Famers. Yeah, that's a good point. I completely forgot about Barrera, Marquez, and Morales. Yeah, when you think about it, Pacquiao has a much more impressive resume than Mayweather. Because think about it, Pacquiao fought virtually everybody that Floyd fought, right? And then he fought fighters like Marquez, Barrera, and Morales. And yeah, Floyd fought Marquez as well, but he didn't fight Barrera and Morales, and they're Hall of Famers. They're legends, they are. So, and Manny beat them as well. So yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd have to agree with Holly there, Holly Inferno there, that Manny beat some really, really good fighters. And then he fought, apart from Canelo, he fought everybody Floyd fought as well. If anything, he fought Margarito, someone that Floyd didn't fight. So Free says 20 years from now, Manny's career will be more significant. Yeah, possibly. I agree with that. He's more of an icon, ain't he? He's more of a legendary figure than Floyd was. But nevertheless, you know, Canelo, like I said, his career is still going. You don't know what he's going to achieve and what he's going to go on to achieve. I think it's hard. I've seen Tyson get KO so many times. Lol. Tyson, what? Mike Tyson? Which Tyson? You mean Tyrone or Tyson? Guys, everyone in the stream, if you can smash the like button, I'd appreciate it. Keep smashing. Get those likes up, man. Okay, so Holly says, Mayweather fought current 5 champions in one weight class, but was never undisputed. But it takes only 3 champs to be undisputed. For Canelo, Taylor, and Usyk, Crawford only took 2 champions, lol. I don't know what you mean by that. Like, Crawford only took 2 champions. Like, Crawford beat everyone. He cleaned out that division, to be honest. I think Crawford deserves a lot more respect than what he gets. He becomes undisputed. Everyone questions his resume. But when you think about it, Taylor's resume at 140 wasn't exactly killer. Like, he beat guys they weren't that great. You know, let's be honest. Ramirez, Prograis, fair enough. They're decent, nothing special. But yeah, Crawford beat his competition easily. Okay, Charlie R says, World says, Manny will never be GOAT to Americans. Canelo can't also to be GOAT to Americans. Americans will make up random excuses to not put their top five. Canelo's not a top five. Manny Pacquiao for me is top five, but not Canelo. I don't think Canelo's top five. To be honest with you, that's just my opinion. I don't think Canelo's top five. Not yet, anyway. Guys, everyone in the stream, if you can smash the like button. I don't know if you've done it already, I appreciate it, but if you haven't, if you can smash that like button. Okay, so Dave Martinez says, I believe Canelo has defeated more undefeated champions and either Manny and definitely Floyd. Possibly, yeah. Yeah. But that's just, you could defeat undefeated world champions, yes. But how great were those undefeated champions, like, if we think about it? You know, he beat Liam Smith. How great was Liam Smith, Billy Joe, Callum Smith? You know, they're not exactly, you know, so you got to look at the competition as well. Hamzi says, do you think Manny should fight at 140? What's going on, Mike?
What's going on, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Just a little bit tired.
Yeah,
But
yeah. What's the time where you are?
I'm in Texas right now, so it's 6 p.m.
Oh, is
It's not
it?
late. I'm just tired from last night.
Why? What happened
I
last night?
I was out till late. I was out clubbing.
Oh, right. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair play.
Uh,
Fair play, man. So, what, you just got up or something?
nah, I got up hours ago, but man, I
Yeah, it's
was
just a rough one.
tore up. Yeah, I was tore up last night. Pretty
What do you
bad.
make then? What do you make of um the what I was gonna ask you about Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul? We got to get onto that tonight. There's obviously them fighting. Are you interested in that?
Personally, no, not really, man. I don't know much about the Paul guys. I don't know anything about their background. I'm not. I know that they've been fighting,
Mhm.
and of course Floyd, I think, fought um, the brother, right, or something like
Yeah,
that. It's like two brothers, right?
Logan.
Yeah. So that's the only reason, I know just because of the social media, but I don't know anything about them. I'm not even sure, like, what's their background? Like, what are they, like, social? Are they
YouTubers.
shows or YouTubers? But
Yeah,
for
yeah,
what?
yeah.
What do they do?
I don't know, probably like pranks and they did all
Oh,
of that. You
okay,
know that old stuff that back in the day, like 5, 6, 10 years ago, they must have started and they kicked it big. They went big. They got millions of
oh,
subscribers.
okay.
So they're like social media stars and sensations and stuff.
Just random YouTube stuff. Then
Yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah,
like it could be
yeah,
video games or whatever the hell it is.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly,
Okay,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So he's fighting Tyron Woodley. He's a UFC
man.
fighter.
Well, he got popular fast, man.
Yeah, he
I mean,
did. He did.
if that's how he started to be able to get these types of fights. I mean, I know they're not, real elite level professional boxers, but I mean, a lot of people are talking about him, so he's doing something right, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I want to get onto. We'll go on to Jake Paul and stuff later, but I want to start this debate. I got asked, to do this live stream just to see who's the greater,
Hmm.
Pacquiao and Floyd, and can Canelo reach their level? What do you think? What's your take on all of this?
That, I mean, that's to me, when we talk about GOAT debates or just all time greats making a list, man. That's tough. It's always been tough for me. When I was younger, as older, my opinion or my mentality on that has changed a lot. I would make like lists and say, well, this guy's the greatest or this guy's the best, top 10 or whatever. But the more you think about it, the more you analyze,
Hmm.
the harder it gets and the more you realize that it's almost impossible. I mean, obviously there's
Hmm.
comparisons that you can make that are obvious, right? Like, if you compare a Manny Pacquiao to, another basic Hall of Famer, then or a common Hall of Famer, then it's easy to separate them, right? But when you're trying to make separations among all-time greats, and they're in different eras, and rules have changed, and a lot of things factor into, as there's just so many factors, so many variables that it's almost impossible. Like, it's hard to compare eras. But as far as like what I know, like just what I've seen from these, like Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather, and what I'm seeing from Canelo, obviously I would put Pacquiao number one over Floyd. I think his legacy is greater than Floyd's. And but can Canelo reach that level? I don't know, man. I mean, it depends. I guess it just, if he does, he's probably gonna have to do it in his own way. Like, there's different ways of reaching greatness. Some do it by who they face, the level of opposition, the names that they have, Hall of Famers. Maybe they're in their prime. Others do it by divisions. Others do it by amount of fights or amount of wins. Others, I mean, there's different ways of I guess reaching that level of greatness. But when it's all said and done, I mean, I don't know. We would have to wait until Canelo retires, and then we would might be able to compare. But even when he retires, I could tell you right now that it's not gonna be obvious. There's gonna be people that are gonna have different opinions, and we're never gonna get the true answer.
If Canelo becomes undisputed at light heavyweight, right? He basically, just say he beats Plant, and then he goes on to become undisputed at light heavyweight. What about then? What would you think? What would you think then?
That would be super impressive, but I don't think he's gonna do that. I'm not even sure he's gonna even try to attempt to do that. So, but if he did do that, I mean, yeah, it would be very, very impressive. But again, it's kind of, they're gonna say, well, who did he beat? Who was
Yeah,
it? Are these
yeah,
guys Hall of Famers? Are they not Hall? How good were these guys? Is Bivol that good? Was it Better Be if that good? There's always gonna be an excuse. So I guess it just depends on what you value. What you value, and what you consider to be harder. The level of difficulty. So obviously, for a guy like Canelo, that would be extremely hard to do, right? Just knowing that he started off at like 140, 147. Obviously turning pro as a teenager, and then going all the way to 175. That's pretty incredible, right? But I don't know. Who knows? How does that compare to Manny Pacquiao? Manny Pacquiao's got a crazy resume, man. Manny Pacquiao's got a crazy, crazy legacy. It's hard. I know he started off in lower weight classes, so it's obvious that he's gonna have more divisions, right? He's gonna have 8 because it was easier to just go jump 4 weights. 4 weights, that's just uh compared to, like, getting to the higher weight classes where you're jumping 7 weights, 8 weights. But still, I mean, it's 8 divisions. Is incredible what Pacquiao did. And I just think more than that, it's the level of opposition that he faced. He faced a bunch of great fighters. He had a lot of fights where he was the underdog, where a lot of people didn't expect him to win. He fought guys that were in their prime. When I think about, like, when he beat Barrera, he shocked a lot of people when he beat Barrera. He fought Marquez. Another thing that I like about Pacquiao is that he's old school um, in the sense that he's fought a lot of these guys multiple times. He fought Marquez 4 times. He fought Morales 3 times. He fought uh, Timothy Bradley 3 times, who's probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame too. He fought Barrera twice. So I mean, he's got the total package. Manny Pacquiao's got the total package. He's a throwback for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying there. Little Penny, I want to bring you in. Little Penny and Ahmed, I want to bring you in. What do you think? You heard Mike give his take. What do you think, Little Penny?
I think. Oh, hi Imran. Hi everyone. Hi Makai. Hi Ahmed.
Little
Um,
Kenny.
All right.
Come on.
I think Canelo doesn't have the opponents to do it. I think he might be just as good as Floyd and Pacquiao, but
Manny.
I just don't think he has the opponents to be great. Like for example, like Pacquiao had even before he became a household name, he was already an all-time great because he
Yeah,
fought and beat the 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 best super featherweights of all time in Barrera, Marquez,
Morales.
and
Yeah.
Morales. Yeah, and then he had another career when he beat the all-time greats in the welterweight division like Cotto and Mosley and Bradley. And he fought, as Mackay was saying, he fought them multiple times, and people remember that. Like for example, the trilogy with Holyfield and Burr, um, and Holyfield and Tyson, like when they had rematches. Whereas Canelo, he only had a rematch with Triple G. I think apart from that, that was the only rematch that he had. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
so I feel sorry for Canelo because he's like Pacquiao. He's cut from a different cloth. Like he fights the best of the best, kind of like with AJ too. But his
Hmm.
opponents aren't that good. Kind of like I kind of like compare it with like um similar to like with Mayweather, where he I know this is different. Like Mayweather kind of like cherry picked his
Hmm.
opponents, especially at 140, 147, 154. But
Hmm.
I wished Mayweather had fought like guys like Costa Zoo at 140, Mosley earlier at 147, Cotto at 147 like 5 years earlier. Same with Pacquiao 5 years earlier. I just feel
Hmm.
sometimes like when you look at Mayweather's resume,
Hmm.
there's a lot of asterisks there.
He did
Whereas,
fight Maidana though, didn't he? I think I think that was actually a fight where he chose Maidana because he thought it was going to be a lot easier than actually it turned out.
Yes.
yeah,
Maidana turned out to be a nightmare for him. And actually, I think Mayweather always struggled against that kind of style. Against Hatton, Hatton gave him a few problems. Hatton just wasn't strong enough, or he didn't have the chin to
yeah,
really,
yeah.
and he was small. Whereas Maidana had physical strength. He had power. He had relentless pressure, and Mayweather couldn't really hurt him. Would you agree with that, Mike?
He underestimated Maidana.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He did.
100%. He underestimated Maidana because
Mm-hmm.
Floyd it got to the point where his opponents were predictable. Like I knew who he was going to fight. It just depended.
Yeah.
Like when Maidana beat Broner, it was almost obvious that he was going to be the next guy up because
Mm-hmm.
he just fit the description of what
Yeah, yeah,
Floyd
yeah,
wanted. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like the style, he was coming off of win. He was hyped. They were hyping him up, even though Broner, we already know Broner's been a hype job the majority of his career.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
he was taking from that win, and he's like, he's gonna be the next guy. And I think he kind of underestimated him. The fight was really supposed to go kind of like what happened in the second fight, but
Mm,
Maidana, I think, um Maidana, I think, kind of surprised him a little bit, especially in the first half of the fight, and then Floyd kind of made the adjustments later. But I never looked at Maidana as a big threat, honest to be honest with you, man. Because I mean, I remember people were joking during around this time. I used to be on heavy like in forums, right, boxing forums, and I remember people were joking around saying that Morales, a past prime Morales with one eye, did better than Floyd, right? In the
mm,
first fight, of course. So they were
mm,
joking around. So it was like if Morales was able to do that to Maidana, and this is like
mm.
a way past prime. I'm talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
like out of shape. He was fighting with one. He had a massive hematoma or a bruised eye, and
Mm,
he made Maidana look really, really bad. And Maidana's a good fighter. Don't get me wrong; he's a good fighter.
mm,
But when you compare him, you put him in the ring with someone like Floyd, you just know that you just kind of knew the outcome, right? It was obvious. Like it wasn't, Maidana would have to really shock him, which he kind of did, like I said in the
mm,
first fight, but it still wasn't enough.
mm. It was very close though. The first fight was very close. Like Mayweather was really in a lot of trouble in that fight. I've never seen Mayweather in that kind of trouble, apart from the Castillo fight, maybe the De
Right.
La Hoya fight. But Maidana pushed him very, very close. You know,
Maidana took a page from Castillo.
yeah.
It was very, very similar to the Castillo fight, where he was just his offense was affecting just his work rate
Mm.
was winning him the rounds because it was preventing Floyd from working his offense. So he was just basically winning rounds just by putting Floyd in situations where he just didn't want to punch back. Because Floyd is a guy who picks his spots. He's defensive minded, so he's not a Floyd is not the type of guy that's going to try and punch while the opponent is punching, right? He's not gonna try to slug it out with the guy or push back like that. He's gonna be like more technical, precise, and he's gonna pick his spots. And if you're able to, if you have the stamina, if you have the work rate to win the majority of the round, you could outwork a guy like Floyd.
Because I remember at the time that Floyd put up a poll between Maidana and Khan, right?
Right,
And I think Khan won that poll, and he
right,
then chose Maidana. I think that was
right.
because he always was going to choose Maidana. Uh,
Yes.
I I actually think in his head he perceived Khan as a bigger threat than
Oh, for
Maidana.
sure. No question. Well, I used to have
And
that debate with some of my friends. And even if he would have, because he was going to be the favorite against Khan anyway,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah, of course,
even if he would have knocked Khan out, it wouldn't have
yeah,
mattered to me. The point is that Khan presented a different type of fight, right? Where
exactly, yeah,
it was gonna be a little bit more difficult. He was gonna have to deal with speed. He was gonna have to deal with height, reach, athleticism, and it wasn't going to be the type of fight where the guy's gonna come forward. He's gonna be able to pot shot, counter all night, counter all night.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was a completely different fight. Completely different fight. I would have rather have seen the Khan fight than a Maidana fight, to be honest with you.
I'd rather have seen him fight Khan once instead of fight Maidana twice. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
That was yeah, I would have I'd rather I think I didn't understand that though, Mike, and I'll come on to the others in a minute. I didn't really understand that because I think Khan would have been a bigger payday for him as well.
Yes, of course.
So
That's part of
I
the
didn't quite
argument.
understand. I didn't quite understand. And surely when you're Mayweather, this is why Mayweather didn't help his legacy in the sense that
Yeah.
like he would be like surely when you think about it, Mayweather would have been confident of beating like sure. I don't know. I don't know. I just think that maybe he looked at him. I don't know. I think what Floyd did, he looked at him and he looked at Khan as a threat in his head. Even though
Hmm.
now looking back at it, people may not think so, but I actually think at the time he looked at him and thought stylistically it might be a horrible fight. And actually, the Maidana fight turned out a lot harder than what he thought that would be.
Yes.
So it kind of backfired. You know what I mean?
Yeah, big time. Big time. But that's who Floyd was. I mean,
Yeah,
that's who he was. He was about, look, he was about making the most money possible, but
yeah,
without risking too much, or whatever risk that I mean, the fans didn't matter, right? Like, for example, even when you look at Manny Pacquiao, I always thought that Floyd was going to beat Pacquiao, even in Pacquiao's peak. I always felt, if I had to put my money on someone, I would put it on Floyd just because of all the other physical advantages that he had over Manny Pacquiao as well. But in his mind, it didn't matter what I thought. In his mind, he saw Pacquiao as a
mm,
massive threat to the point
mm,
of even accusing him of PEDs for no, like really out the blue, right? Because he never demanded any type of advanced testing versus prior opponents. And we already knew that PEDs were prevalent in boxing just because of, other past fighters, right? Past fighters
mm.
so we knew PEDs were out there, and yet he never demanded any extra testing or anything like that with other opponents. The moment Pacquiao came into play, it was like, oh shit, with this dude, I'm going to demand this, and that. And even after Pacquiao agreed to the testing, there was some other bullshit, and then something else, and then something else, and then something else. And the fight didn't really happen until 5 years later. But at that point, Pacquiao's knocked out,
Mm.
and when you get knocked out, your mentality changes. I don't care who you are, because when you've been knocked out cold, especially the way he got knocked out, there's no way that's not going to be in the back of your head. And before Pacquiao got knocked out, he had more of a killer mentality. I bet you that Pacquiao probably thought nobody could knock his ass out, right? He was
Mm-hmm.
probably he had that in his mind. He had so much confidence. He never thought that he'd be able to get knocked out. So when you get knocked out like that, you're gonna change. You know, you're that killer instinct. You become more cautious in a way, right? So I mean, it is what it is, but that's who Floyd was. He didn't fight. Look, he could have fought Amir Khan. He could have fought Timothy Bradley. Timothy Bradley was another dude that at that time was viewed as either the third best welterweight
Mm.
or, you know, right after Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. A lot of people thought he could have fought Timothy Bradley. He chose not to fight Timothy Bradley. He could have fought. We already know Margarito. That's an old school one though. He could
Or
have fought
William.
Margarito. Yeah, I mean, he could have fought. I know a lot of people bring up Keith Thurman, but I felt like Keith Thurman was a little too new to the game, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I kind of I kind of
Yeah.
give him a pass there. But
Mm.
as far as like someone else who had a belt, he could have fought Kell Brook.
Yeah. I think that was another one. That was another guy that probably didn't have the name, I would say. Like, he didn't have the profile, do you know what I mean, to fit a
Right,
Floyd fight. I think that's why he probably didn't fight him. You know, Kell was somebody that beat Sean Porter, but at the time, Sean Porter was relatively unknown as well. He beat him, and then Kell went
right.
to UK and then fought a load of nobodies. So he didn't
Mhm.
really build his profile. He didn't really build on that win. But I don't know, man. Floyd, you're right though. Floyd, I felt like he went for the easy options. He hurt his legacy, a little bit, to be honest. I do think that you know, at the time he could have. At the time, there was also talk about him fighting Devin Alexander.
Mhm.
But Devin Alexander ended up losing to Khan. But that was a fight that a lot of people wanted to see. They thought Alexander, there are a lot, you know, I don't know what you think about Alexander, Mike, but Alexander was somebody that was seen as a hot shot at one point.
Yeah, I remember Devin. I mean, I saw him at his, you know, I remember him at his peak as well. And
Mm,
yeah, I mean, he was again. It's about styles, right? And
mm,
stylistically, if Floyd fought someone like him, it wasn't gonna be a spectacle. You know what I mean?
mm,
Just
mm.
styles wise, that fight was gonna be a complete bore.
Yeah.
And it's just that's just not the type of guy that Floyd was going to choose. You know, even a lot of American, especially a lot of. I mean, it's a minority group, but a lot of Afro American boxing fans criticize Floyd for not fighting other black fighters of that style or like another slick fighter, for example. You know, so
Mm,
I mean, to me, like I said, to me, he was about the not losing because the way he marketed himself was based off of that. So if
mm,
he lost, the whole TBE, the whole, you know, the whole persona that he had was not going to
mm,
work anymore.
mm,
So, you know, he's the one that changed the game. In my opinion, he's the main reason why we have what we have in boxing today. You know, it's
mm,
like guys who don't fight. I mean, remember Floyd after he fought Hattie, he retired. Floyd
mm,
retired. He was done. He said he was done with boxing. He retired
mm,
for like a year and a half. Then he came back and fought like once a year for like almost 4 years straight. And then after that, he finished his career fighting twice a year. And like again, like just kind of choosing the right opponent. So just the way he moved let you
mm,
know that he wasn't necessarily trying to go above and beyond his what people wanted or his abilities. You know, when you go based on his greatness and his abilities, you know, you think like, dude, you could have done more, bro. Like you could have
mm,
achieved more maybe if you actually cared or wanted to do it, right? But he was more about the money, the status of you know, just maintaining that O so that he could continue to say that he's TBE and then have this perception, you know, or fooling people thinking that if you're undefeated or if he's undefeated, you know, that he's the best ever. But I mean, we already know that he's not the only guy who's undefeated. There's a bunch of
mm,
other fighters who are undefeated, and there's been other fighters who've had better records undefeated before they lost. Like
mm,
Chavez Sr., for example, who was like almost 90-0 before he lost. So
mm,
I mean, that's why it's hard to compare, man. You know, it's hard to compare resumes. It's hard to compare greatness because
mm,
when you don't have a structure like what we see in other sports, right? Where there's tournaments or like a World Cup where you're going from a group stage to a knockout stage, and you get to the semifinal and the final. Well, you don't have that type of structure, and you feel that there's like it's an even playing field for every boxer. Every boxer has to go through the same thing. When you don't have that, and you can kind of pick and choose and manipulate what you want to do, when to fight these guys, this and that, it's how do you compare fighters? You can't, because there's going to be guys that are going to be forced to take certain fights, whether they're too old or whether they're too young or they're not in their prime. And there's going to be guys who are just going to have the power to just be like, nah, I won't fight him right now. I'll fight him next year or 5 years later, or when he loses, or when he gets knocked out, or when this happens, or so it's impossible. How do you how can you compare? I don't know.
I'll come to Ash now. Ash, guys, just before I come to Ash, smash the like button, everybody in the live stream. It'll help the stream. Smash the like button. Ash, Ahmed, what do you make of what Mike just had to say there? Mike, what would you say? Who's got a greater legacy, Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, and can Canelo reach his level? Ash.
So which one is it again? What was the first one? Sorry, who's got better legacy?
Who's got a better legacy, Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather?
Tough one. I'd go with Manny Pacquiao if you're gonna put me on the spot. Because
Why? Why would you say that?
he took more challenges in it. Like he knew that he struggled with counter punches, but he kept fighting them. Whereas Floyd didn't fight guys that were fast and that had power and that were quick. So that's why I'd say Manny Pacquiao, because he fought a lot of counter punches. That was the only style that could really beat him. Someone that was willing to take a few punches, or take a slight step back and quick enough and hurt him back, like Marquez. I know people who say, "Oh well, Floyd Mayweather beat Marquez easy," but that's not the point. The point is Floyd Mayweather was easy with counter punches because he was a better counter puncher than anyone. So you can't look at that. You got to look at what gave him get him a tough fight, and that would have been someone that was, Madonna. Madonna was just like a brawler, and he just came at him, and we didn't know what to do with him for a bit. That's all it was. It wasn't something that he hadn't seen before.
Madonna was just too physically
strong.
That
one punch, wasn't it? It was that one punch where he was throwing it overhead, that punch. Where
yeah. But you can't defend against that.
Yeah, that was the only thing that kind of put Floyd off his game. Otherwise, he would have beat Madonna the first time easy. And what was the second question, Imran?
Can Canelo reach their level?
I'm sure we discussed this last time. He can reach the level when he starts fighting better guys.
What do you mean by fighting better guys? Like, who does he need to fight?
Okay.
Or is there anyone there?
Okay. What weight does he fight at?
Super middleweight.
Well, that's his weight, yeah?
Yeah.
If he stays at that weight, you can't compare him to guys like Mayweather and Pacquiao, in my opinion, because the competition's not there. Them guys didn't stay where they were. Manny Pacquiao came up 8 divisions, and that's why he's known how he is. So, you can't, unless he goes up, okay, he can't come down, then he's got to go up. He's got to go up and fight guys that are proper guys who people respect. And then you can say, you know what?
Like who? What do you think he needs to do? That's what I'm asking. What do you think he needs to do?
He needs to come down. I think, in my opinion, he needs to come down, because going up there's not guys that with a lot of respect, in my opinion, that you can say, oh, he beat this guy and he beat this guy, because
what about Beterbiev, Bivol?
Not good enough.
You don't think so?
Not good enough to compare them to Manny Pacquiao and Mayweather, in my opinion.
What about if he goes up to cruiserweight and beats a cruiserweight champion? Thinking about the guy came from 154.
Say you, okay, let's say example, right? Manny Pacquiao come up from, say, whatever it was before he got to 147. He fought one fight at 140, but he's coming up to a weight where there's a lot of guys that are top guys in the sport, not just at the weight, in the sport. Ricky Hatton, Miguel Cotto, just to come off the tip of my tongue and go on. If you're going to compare him to someone like that, you got to look at and say, okay, what weight did he come up to? Who's he fighting in that weight? Oh, these are the top guys. He beat them all. okay, you know what, you can say, you know what, then you can kind of say, you know what, he's kind of got to say, if he comes down to 160, this is what I mean, comes down to 160, cleans out all the division there, because he's always fought there before. It's not like it's something impossible for him. And there's names in there that people, know about and respect, like Golovkin again, if you wanted, or, Charlos, or whoever's down there, 160, Andrade undefeated, and, and then he beats all them guys. And you can say, then he's got to say, where you can say, you know what, he's beat some top guys at 160, cleared them all out, beat everyone there. And, you got to say he's one of the greats, if you know what I mean. But right now, no.
I still would, Ash. I still would say though, beating Beterbiev, who's seen as a monster at 175, I still think that would be a massive win, and that would be better than him going back down to 160. Don't
But
you
what
think?
I'm trying to say is, Beterbiev's one guy, and there's more names at 160, so he can beat five.
175, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, at 160, then the guys that are there are more well known than Beterbiev, and Beterbiev is the best guy at 175. So him beating Beterbiev doesn't make his minority or respect in that way. Maybe it's in the boxing where people think, yeah, Beterbiev's a good fighter, but he's not a guy like, I go back to, Marquez, this whole of, these guys are greats. These guys are great fighters. This guy's not, Beterbiev's not no Hall of Famer, is he?
Yeah, good point. Ahmed, what do you say?
Going on your first question about Mayweather and Pacquiao, I'd have to give Mayweather the edge in terms of he did fight all the best, and he remained undefeated. On that basis, I have to give him the edge over Pacquiao. And as far as Canelo is concerned, uh, for him to be put in the mix with them two, he would have to go up to 175 and become undisputed at 175 and stay undefeated, have a good, 5 or 10 defenses there as well.
Fair
What do you
enough.
think? I mean, when Roy Jones went to 175, he had about 12 or 14 defenses. So if Canelo could do something like that, or at least half of that, 5 or 6 defenses, beat Beterbiev, Bivol, other potential, opponents as well, top opposition. I think then he's got a case where he could be all the time. People can say Mayweather, Pacquiao, and Canelo. At this moment in time,
No,
he's just he's
not really.
below that. He's below them two at the moment.
Tell you why. When Manny Pacquiao, these guys are fighting these greats, you can take off the top 5 welterweights, and they both got following. The cut off of Mayweather. It's a massive fight. It'd be like when these guys are fighting Canelo, it's all about Canelo. Them guys are just coming up as in Canelo in our sparring partner, because they ain't got massive followings. Yeah, half of these guys even fought on pay-per-view, or even you know what I mean. So you can't say he fights Beterbiev and these guys, and you can call him as in the same breath of them guys, because they're for loads of greats, as I said, and Hall of Famers, and guys that, like, Cotto and these guys that their own massive following, Ricky Hatton, guys like that still known to this day, that the proper doubles or whatever. But then one in that, and how much following, and even the other guy Bivol has even pay-per-view. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're not stars. None of these guys are stars. When I'm talking about Mayweather for
But
stars,
again, a lot of people don't think Canelo can live at 170. But then again, people don't think Canelo can live at 175. This is why I'm saying, if he was to go to 175 and do the things I said, believe me, Max Kellerman, everybody, they'll tell you how great Canelo is.
I'm a Canelo fan. I'm not saying he's a crap fighter. What I'm saying, when you're comparing him to so much in this, yes, he's 4 guys, but
Ash,
kind of on one hand, the guys he fought.
think Ash is having
that were
Mike. From what Ash
really
was
good.
saying, if you want to
Canelo,
build on that,
Canelo's
so
case, that were in the
obviously
prime
those
and he
guys
beat
that
him.
him moving up to
Because even if
175 and fighting Batabi and Bivol,
Yeah?
Ash was basically
Can you hear
saying
me?
that those guys aren't big names. Those guys aren't really Hall of Famers. What would you make of what he was saying?
I'm I I think he's making it easier for Canelo. Based on what he's saying, he's making it easier for Canelo. So he's saying he'd rather see Canelo fight
Canelo's only
Charlo
for a handful
and
of guys that you can even
hold
say
on. He
prime and they
rather
were top fighters.
he wants Canelo to fight Charlo. He wants him to fight the guys at 160, and if he beats those guys, then that impresses him, right? But so he wants so in my opinion, he's making it easier. He's making it easier because it's gonna be way harder for Canelo to beat Bivol and Beterbiev than to beat Charlo, Andrade, and he already fought Triple G.
Yeah, I'd
So
agree with that.
if that's what he thinks, then Canelo might do that because I see the Charlo fight happening. I see the Benavidez fight happening, which a lot of people think he's better than all of those guys. So if he beats those two guys, the only dude that might be left is Andrade, who has a minority following. You know, nobody thinks he's that special other than like maybe 10% of boxing fans. So that's not gonna necessarily kill his overall legacy. You know, if he doesn't fight a guy like Andrade. So if he beats a guy like Charlo, then based on what Ash is saying, he's gonna be impressed. So then he's gonna be able to. Canelo's gonna be able to be in the conversation with a lot of these guys. I mean, personally, I don't know if those fights put him in the conversation because again, I gotta see his career when his career ends, see everybody that he fought, and then maybe we could kind of talk about it. But if we're just gonna choose those two guys there, I don't think that's enough for Canelo to be compared to Manny Pacquiao. I mean, not right away, you know. And like I said, if Canelo does get to the point where he becomes that great or he's on that level, he's gonna have to do it in a different way because the names are not going to be there. They're just not going to be there. There's you know that's just the way it goes. Like Manny Pacquiao was in a great generation where you know Morales and Barrera and Marcus were there. You know that was his generation. Then once he moved up, he was able to fight other guys that were pretty big too. You know like Cotto and them, right? So you know, Canelo's got names. He's got names, but he didn't fight a lot of these guys. Like he's got Mosley, but Mosley was way past his prime. He fought Cotto. Cotto was still, you know, he was still good, but he wasn't peak Cotto, right? So he's got Hall of Fame names as well. But he just, and you know, we already know Triple G is going to be in a Hall of Fame. I don't know about these other guys. Maybe if they achieve more, like a Daniel Jacobs, if these guys achieve more in the long run, maybe they might get in the Hall of Fame. Who the hell knows? But you know, he's going to be undisputed. That's something, for example, something that I don't think they didn't do, right? Pacquiao didn't do. We know Floyd didn't do it. So that's what I mean. Like maybe he can do it in different ways. You know, he can do different, have a be on that level, but in a completely different way. Not necessarily with names, but you know, with being undisputed or something like that.
All right, so guys, just there's some background noise. I don't know what it is, but if we can, I don't know what the background noise is, but I don't know. It's making a weird kind of noise. Can we try to stop that noise? Whoever it is, I don't know who it is. I don't know who's making that background noise. But yeah. Anyway, coming back to it. Jimmy says he wants to come on. Jimmy, I've left a link in the description. You can more than come on and give your take. All right. Okay. So Ash, you wanted to reply to Mike. What did you want to say? Ash?
Yeah, sorry. What did you say? Sorry. Can you hear me?
You wanted to reply to him. Hey, yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
What was he saying? But basically, if I said what I said was comparing. I'd rather see him fight guys at 160 if you're gonna compare him fighting guys at 175, because the guys at 160 are more well known, more people, more eyes on them, and he might get more respect for beating them. I didn't say that. Oh, I'll be happy that if he beats them and the way he portrayed it. So maybe that's a bit more clearer for the guy. But that's what I meant. That I'd rather see him fight guys at 160, and I believe that's a better challenge for him than fighting a 175. But obviously, everyone else,
But
as you know, everyone has assholes and like opinions. So that's my opinion.
but but Ash, I've got a question for you. Would you rather see him beat well-known guys, or would you rather him fight difficult fighters and beat them?
But you're comparing him to saying that you want to put him up there as in the same breath as Pacquiao and Mayweather. So what I'm saying is, be it to Biev and Bivol, no matter whoever's, I like them guys. I'm not saying the bad fighters, but what I'm saying is to compare him beating them and say, look, he beat them guys, and it's still a good trade to have, like undisputed, like you said. But you can't still, in my opinion, compare that to a line of fighters that these guys beat in their prime. When you be beating three guys that are not well known, not done really much themselves, they're not out there as only people that know them, that know boxing guys only know them, like us guys. If you went on the street and asked, oh, do you know BTBF and these guys, they'd be like, don't know about, unless you went to a certain area where they're from or whatever. So the fact is,
Yeah, would
Canelo's
you
the
not say? Would you not
star.
say guys like? Would you not say guys like Believ and Kovalev and even Golovkin are much better than guys like Andre Barreto, Robert Guerrero, Victor Ortiz,
But
Baldomir,
these are the guys.
Zab Judah?
Are you
I
are
mean,
you
Mayweather
are
put
you
a lot of
naming?
bombs.
You're naming. Oh, you're naming Mayweather's opponents, but these are you're naming opponents when he near the end of his career, where he didn't need to fight guys. As people know, he picked whoever he wanted to fight. But let's go back about 10 years, and you can name and knock them off one by one. The guys he fought.
Where's he gone? Was that Jimmy that was making? Who made those comments?
I don't know I don't know what you meant by that, but
That he just called Zab Judah a bum.
he said he fought guys like. I said he named a couple of names that near Andre Berto and.
There he's back. He's back. Jimmy, my man. Was that you that was naming off Mayweather's names, opponents? Jimmy?
Yeah, can you hear me, bro?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did you call Zab Judah a bum?
No, not Zab Judah. But guys like like Carlos Baldomir, Victor Ortiz, Andre Berto.
He's not no bum.
I mean, Mayweather fought a lot of guys that no one wanted to see him fight. Like, I'd say guys like Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, Caleb Plant, I'd say they're a much higher quality fighter than most welterweights that Floyd fought. I mean, Shane Mosley, if he was old for Canelo, why was he young for Mayweather? Because there was only about a year and a half between the fights.
How many fights has Canelo had? And you can only name 3-4 fights, and you're naming guys that he's recently
Bro, Canelo also had no amateur career. Yeah, but bro, Canelo had no amateur career though. You're not factoring that into account either.
Mayweather never fought 500 fights. He had about 100 fights, unless I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. So it's not like he had him.
Who's that?
Say that again, Imran.
No.
He had Mayweather had 50 fights.
There you go. So 50 fights. You don't forget all that. Canelo fought since he's 15, so that just matches up. So let's just say, if you go to his record, you can't even, like I said about 10-15 minutes ago, you can't even name 10 guys that he's fought, that are top notch, right? He's fought Golovkin twice. His name is one guy, right? And that's Golovkin. And who else? Koval. Who else is he fought? That's his already.
Yeah.
Who else is he?
He hasn't. Yeah, I'd agree. He's not really fought many Hall of Famers. Like Billy Joe, Callum Smith, Plant. These aren't Hall of Famers. Nowhere
he's
near.
Only fought two decent guys I can remember. Yeah, it's Danny Jacobs and Golovkin. Miguel Cotto was old though. He's finished by then. Danny Jacobs and Golovkin. So I don't know what Jay's on about.
This is a thing that I don't think Ash is looking at. Like, for example, I'm gonna use an example, right? Like that he used. He brought up Juan Manuel Marquez, right? So he's bringing up Juan Manuel Marquez because we know Juan Manuel Marquez to be a Hall of Famer. He's got the name, right? But he's completely ignoring the fact that Juan Manuel Marquez was not a welterweight, especially at that time. That he had to jump 2 weight classes, 2 complete weight classes to fight Floyd Mayweather in a weight class that he had never, ever fought in. In other words, it was a debut for him in that weight class. So he rather ranked that fight higher, right? He rather ranked that win higher than a guy like Beterbiev, who he doesn't know. He believes that for Floyd, that was a more difficult matchup than Canelo fighting Beterbiev, and that's just not true.
I'd agree there, man.
Did I say that, man?
Ash, I think he's got a point there.
I didn't say that though. Where's he getting that from? I said,
what did you say?
That Mayweather's a better counter puncher than anyone. So how could he hack? What you on about? I don't understand where he's getting that from.
No, you said earlier you brought up Juan Manuel Marquez, like saying, "Oh, look at these are the guys that Floyd fought."
Yeah, but bro, can you name me one
giving you an example.
Go on, let him finish. Say that again, mate.
What I'm saying is that I agree that the guys that Floyd fought, they have big names. So I agree with you. These are great fighters. But the difficulty, if we go based on the matchups, right? For Canelo Alvarez fighting Beterbiev or a Bivol who may not have that name, for Canelo, that fight is way more difficult
I didn't say that,
than Floyd beating Marquez.
Yeah, but I wasn't talking about just Marquez though. You're talking about one fight, and you're saying it like, "Oh, Marquez."
Okay, but who else? Give me another.
Hold on. You're making it out like I said. Floyd beating Marquez beats any of Canelo's opponents. I didn't say that. That's how you're making it out like. That's how you're making it out like. You're saying, "Oh, Floyd beating Marquez is so good." I didn't say that. Anyway, all I said was Floyd's the best counter puncher. Marquez was a multi-weight champion before he came up to today. He didn't just come up weight. So you can't just say something like, "Is Beterbiev a multi-weight champion?"
No, but I get what he's saying. Ash, I get what Mike's saying.
I hear what he's saying. He's saying basically it's a bigger challenge because he's going up and fighting a guy. It's a bigger challenge for him. But
Let me ask you a question, Ash. If Canelo was to beat Beterbiev, right? What win do you think Floyd had that was greater than that? What win do you think is great or equivalent to that? Do you reckon? There are some actually. Pacquiao possibly. I don't know whether that was in their prime. What win? Pacquiao was kind of slightly past his prime. But just say Canelo goes up now and fights Beterbiev now, beats him now, right? What win do you think would be greater than that Floyd had in his career?
But then you're going by one fight against one fight, innit?
No, but Canelo's had some good wins as well. He's at. I know what you're saying, but Canelo's had some good wins as well. It's not like he's had no good wins. It's like the fact that he's beating guys like Billy Joe, Callum Smith. If he beats Plant, you know, I know those guys aren't Hall of Famers. You're right, Ash, but they're still world-class fighters. They're still undefeated they're undefeated world champions that he's dusting off and battering. So I don't know how. It's not. He can only fight what's there. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. You have to look at the way he's beating those guys as well. So I think he's beating them in dominant fashion.
I think Ash's mic is scratching.
Ash, what's going on with your mic?
What's going on?
Ash, something's wrong with your. What's going on? Ash? Ash, you there? Oh, Jimmy, where's Marlo? What are you saying, Marlo? Marlo, you there?
Yeah. I'm just sitting there listening. How's everybody doing? Everybody good?
Good, man. Good having you on. Good having you on, bro.
That's good. That's good, bro. Yeah, just listening. You guys.
What's your opinion?
I mean, Canelo's great, but as far as like his resume, I don't see the same type of names that I see on Floyd's resume. Like you got Pacquiao, You have Miguel Cotto. You have Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, even if you could say that you would say that they're old. I mean, the same people that call Shane Mosley old when he fought Floyd Mayweather, they're not saying that he's old when he fought Pacquiao. When he fought Pacquiao, what was he, a year and a half older?
No, he was older in both fights. He was old in both fights.
Yeah, but people don't. When people say that Pacquiao beat Shane Mosley, they just say that Pacquiao beat Shane Mosley. They don't say that Shane Mosley's old unless they're talking about when Floyd beat him.
The haters, bro. Those are the only ones that say that, man. The haters.
Guys, would Pacquiao have beaten Shane Mosley in his prime?
I don't know. Mosley was a beast in his prime.
Yeah, he was a beast, man.
He was a beast, man. That's hard to say. But then Pacquiao was.
You guys know?
Pacquiao was also a beast.
It would have been 50-50 fights, legitimate 50-50 fights.
Yeah, it would have been. You know, like Jimmy. So you were making some points. You were saying that. You were
bro,
saying.
sorry about that.
No, it's all right. What were you saying about Floyd's resume?
Sorry, my Wi-Fi keeps crashing. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, bro, I was saying that I feel like an argument could be made at middleweight and super middleweight. Overall, actually a better class of opposition than Mayweather because.
Oh, he's gone. His Wi-Fi is not good. Yeah, Marlo. So basically, Jimmy was saying rare breed. And Marlo, come to you. Jimmy's basically saying that Canelo's resume, his level of opponents are better. He's fighting undefeated world champions, whereas Floyd was kind of picking and choosing his fights. What would you say that, Marlo?
Hold on. Give me 1 second. My son's trying. Hold on 1 second.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was saying a lot of the welterweight. I feel like Mayweather's welterweight run, a lot of it was smoke and mirrors because he never really fought an elite level fighter in their prime at welterweight. If you look at his resumes, guys like Mosley, Pacquiao, they were kind of past it. Guys like Andre Berto, Guerrero, they were never elite at any stage. Even Manny Pacquiao, I feel like fought better welterweights. He fought Tim Bradley, he fought Keith Thurman. He signed to fight Errol Spence. He was in negotiations to fight Brad Crawford. So that's a guy that took on a lot of the smoke at welterweight. But Mayweather, again, Berto, Maidana, I mean, these are all right fighters, but they're never the Keith Thurmans, the Tim Bradleys, the Spences.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think he made some good points there. What was his toughest fight at welterweight, Floyd?
I don't know. If we go back to his history, his biggest opponent, based on what the majority of people said, was supposed to be Manny Pacquiao, who's not even a natural welterweight.
Yeah.
So that alone tells you that era was not a great era of welterweights.
Mike,
that was just not a great era.
Eric says De La Hoya.
That's his best win?
Yeah, well, that's what Eric is saying at welterweight. Was that welterweight?
No, that was
at 154. That was at 154.
That was junior middleweight.
That's a great win, though. I would say that's a great win at 154. That was Oscar.
To me, that's one of Floyd's best win. I would put it in the top 3 or 4. But again, we're talking about a De La Hoya who, prior Floyd, in his last 3 or 4 fights, he lost 3 of those. He lost 3 of those. Like he was, and he retired. He fought Pacquiao after that. Then he retired. Like he was a past prime part-time fighter. This is a guy who he was done already. His career was over. You know, this is not the De La Hoya that fought Trinidad. This is not the De La Hoya that fought Mosley on EPO. This is not the De La Hoya that was viewed as a pound for pound #1 guy. You know what I mean? Because if it would have been that De La Hoya, then it would have been a 50-50 fight.
But it was close, though. It was a 50-50 fight, though, Mike, because it was split decision. Many people.
Well, Floyd was favored in that fight.
No, he was. I agree in the sense, but the fight. Look at the way the fight played out. It was a split decision, very close fight.
Yeah, of course, because no, yeah, I mean, I had Floyd winning a competitive, close fight, but I thought it was clear. I thought it was a clear win. I thought it was 115, 113, 116, 112, but a very competitive fight. But my point is that if you compare De La Hoya, the type of fighter De La Hoya was, and you compare him to that De La Hoya, I think the reason why De La Hoya was competitive was because it's De La Hoya. When you're a Hall of Famer, when you're on that level, and you have that type of experience, you can always be competitive, right? You could always have a one last great fight or a great performance per se. But that was a flat-footed Oscar De La Hoya. A flat-footed Oscar De La Hoya. That was not the De La Hoya on his toes, the athletic one who fought a Pernell Whitaker. Go watch the tape when he fought Pernell Whitaker. Go watch the Trinidad fight. I mean, this was an active De La Hoya, combination punches. He was, good defensively. This was more of a plotter where, his game plan was just kind of smother Floyd, and then Floyd was just kind of like picking him apart, countering him and stuff like that. So do I give him credit for that win? Of course I give him credit. But again, it's kind of like it's a point of the debate, right? Is that he's got the names, but the names were not in their prime. And what I mean by prime, I'm not talking about like when people say, oh, well, Sugar Ray Leonard beat Marvin Hagler, but Marvin Hagler wasn't in his prime. No, I'm not talking about that, because that Marvin Hagler, even if he wasn't at his peak, he was still on a roll. He was still on fire. These are like clearly past their prime. Like they're not even streaking. They don't even have a streak of wins. They have up and down careers. They're not active anymore. They're fighting once a year. They're on their way, literally on their way out. Like this isn't even a debate on whether they're in their prime or not. You know what I'm saying? Like it's obvious. Like Sugar Shane Mosley, same thing. Sugar Shane Mosley had no reflexes at that point. Literally no reflexes. I mean, this dude had already been in a bunch of wars, in a bunch of tough fights, and that's my problem. That's what, I don't know who, someone mentioned it here. It's like smoke and mirrors, right? A little bit. So he still has a great resume. Don't get me wrong. Floyd still has a fantastic resume. He's an all-time great. He's a Hall of Famer, all that. But if we're going to compare fighters and we're going to compare all-time greats, you have to bring up these specific things. You have to, because if not, then how do you separate them? You have to bring these things up.
Yeah, I think Mayweather knows how to time fights. He knew De La Hoya had a couple of losses, and he thought, he'd be able to beat him at that stage, and that's exactly what happened. It was quite close.
So question time. Eric says, question then. Who gets better credit for being Oscar?
That's Floyd, a great question. Manny? That's a great question. See, that's a tricky question. If you're going to ask me, I'm going to give Floyd more credit. Because he fought him at 154. Floyd had to move up. That was a debut for Floyd. Floyd had never fought in that weight class. So I'm gonna give Floyd more credit. And Pacquiao fought him after, on top of that. And he fought him at, what was it, 147 or 145? De La Hoya was like drained to the core, man. Drained to the core. But the reason why I think that's a great question is because, believe it or not, Oscar De La Hoya was favored going into that fight over Manny Pacquiao, which is crazy.
Yeah, but that was probably because he was so big, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Pacquiao was so small. Even Miguel Cotto, I remember Paulie Malignaggi saying that if Pacquiao beats Miguel Cotto, he may be the greatest fighter of all time. Right. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But it was, that's when Paulie said, that's when I thought that Pacquiao was up to no good, because he goes, Pacquiao didn't just beat him, he bashed him. He didn't just beat him, but he absolutely battered him.
Matter of fact, that same night, Floyd Sr., after the fight, he's the one that started the whole rumors, basically. It kind of started from there. Like, that's where the whole PED shit started, and then we already know what that led to.
Yeah, that was terrible, because you know what? The fight should have been made at that particular point. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That was the time to make the fight. The iron was hot at that point. Now, I reckon when the fight took place in 2015, from a financial standpoint, the fight was probably at its biggest, right? Because I know everybody wanted to see that fight. But I reckon the best time to make that fight happen for the hardcore boxing fans was probably after the Cotto fight or after the Hatton fight. I think that's when Pacquiao and Floyd should have fought. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I agree with you. It was 5 years from 2015. So that's 2010, 2009. Yeah.
What would you say?
It should have happened a year after the Cotto fight. No later than a year after, a year and a half after, 2 years max should have happened.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Ash, what would you say? Ash? No, I think Ash isn't there. He isn't there. So yeah, so coming back to you, Ahmed, then. If just say so Rare Breed's back on. Rare Breed. Okay, Mike, I think Ash is back on.
What's up?
Yeah, Rare Breed, coming to you. I'm pretty sure you're hearing what we're saying. What's your take? You didn't get a chance.
Yeah, as far as Floyd and Manny.
Yeah.
Okay. So give me one moment. So in my opinion, this is how I look at it. So when you look at the two of their careers, who can you say that Manny beat that Floyd didn't beat?
Keith Thurman?
Keith Thurman.
Okay. Do you okay, but let's be real. Who did Keith fight before Manny?
Porter. He fought Danny Garcia.
No. I'm talking about the fight right before Manny.
Lopez.
Yes, he looked like trash in that fight, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
You could argue, because I know I like to say Floyd likes to cherry pick. You could argue Manny cherry picked that fight.
At 40 years old?
Thurman has too many injuries. He's had too many injuries.
Well, Mike makes a good point. Rare Breed. Mike makes a good point. He was 40, Manny.
Yes, he was 40, but a 40-year-old Manny Pacquiao is going to beat up a washed Thurman because Manny is still a great fighter.
Oh, it wasn't a washed Thurman though.
Yes, it was. Because when's the last time Thurman has fought? Thurman, it's been like almost 3 years he's been in the ring.
But look how good. But wouldn't you say that Thurman pushed Manny in that fight? He was good. Like, I know in the Lopez fight he looked good, but in the Pacquiao fight he looked good. He was doing well in that fight. You don't think?
He did, because it's not the old Manny like other. Yeah,
I'd agree.
That version of Thurman. That version of Thurman is not beating Danny Garcia or Porter.
You could make the argument. You could make the argument that Thurman was cherry picking Manny Pacquiao.
Perhaps, yeah, you could.
Yeah,
but just because of his age. Just because of his age.
Yeah, but also, I mean, those guys like fighting Manny Pacquiao. It's not really about the risk with him. It's the payday. You know, so like, it's kind of worth it, even if you take a L against Manny. So you gotta look at it that way too. Another thing is, as far as Floyd goes, Manny, you guys said it yourself. Manny struggles against boxers and counter punchers.
Yeah.
Is there a style? Floyd, there's not a style that Floyd struggles against.
Oh, hell yeah, there is.
Cool.
You don't think he struggles against pressure fighters?
No.
You don't think he struggles with guys like Maidana that come forward and put a lot of pressure on him?
Have you noticed when Floyd has a tough fight against a fighter, he gets a rematch with them and looks much better the second fight?
I wouldn't say I agree. But I wouldn't say he looked great in the second fight. I wouldn't say he was completely dominant. And Maidana bust him up in that second fight as well. Floyd had bruised eyes and he had his tooth knocked out. You know, I wouldn't say he completely dominated. I thought he won, but I thought he was like he was hurt in
not
that
just
fight,
but
man. He was wobbled in that fight. That was a hard fight.
what's more telling.
Yeah.
Imran, you know what's more telling about that though is that he's struggling with are not even Hall of Famers with that style.
Yeah.
So imagine if he fought someone with that style, but it was Roberto Duran.
Yeah,
then what would happen there?
Yeah.
So the point here is like how can you say he doesn't struggle with a guy with that style when Maidana is not even close to Floyd's level? Castillo arguably beat him in the first fight. Castillo is nowhere near Floyd's level. So you're you know.
Let's be real. Floyd got hurt in that fight, and I'm not talking about Castillo hurt him. He hurt his arm in that fight.
All right, so Pacquiao was hurt too then. So Pacquiao was hurt.
Against who?
Against Floyd.
Against who? No, he wasn't.
Against Floyd. Yes, he was.
No,
he had surgery in his shoulder. He's
the only guy to get away with all these excuses. Oh, my legs had cramps.
He had surgery. He had surgery, bro.
He literally said,
I'm not joking.
He healed his shoulder by swimming in salt water. He said that. That's bullshit.
But what does that have to do with the point? What does it have to do with the point?
Have surgery. That's the point,
dude. So the pictures that he posted, the doctor that came out and spoke about his surgery, that's all fake.
Okay, but I don't even understand what you're trying to get at, because Floyd gave Castillo a rematch and beat him easily.
Because he's better than Castillo.
And he's better than Pacquiao too.
Yeah, but you use the excuse of the shoulder. That's my point for Floyd.
Look, when you watch that fight,
what are you saying? Are you saying Floyd's legacy is better than Manny? That's what I'm trying to get. I don't know what you're saying. Like, no one's doubting that if Floyd fought Manny, Mike already said that he felt Floyd would beat Manny even in their primes. But what I'm saying to you is that the legacy, from a legacy point of view, you think Floyd's level of opponents are better than what Pacquiao fought. Remember, Floyd never fought Morales or Barrera. You know, Manny's got that, and then Manny fought virtually everybody Floyd fought as well. Apart
from why
Canelo.
I think so? No, let me tell you why. Morales and Barrera, those guys are tailor-made for a Floyd Mayweather type of fighter. They're come forward Mexican fighters. That doesn't work against Floyd. It doesn't. That's why Manny Pacquiao
worked for Castillo.
Who?
It worked for Castillo.
He already took care of Castillo. Okay, I mean, Floyd's beaten much better fighters than Castillo, so he had one off night. Okay, Manny had an off night against Jeff Horn, so it happened.
No, you got robbed. That was an off night.
Can you imagine? You guys would be going off on Floyd if he had struggled against a Jeff Horn type of guy. I feel like Manny won that fight, but the fact that he even struggled with a Jeff Horn, that should tell you something.
Jeff Horn is a good. Jeff Horn
took a beating, man. It's the same argument, man. It's the same argument.
He took a beating. Jeff Horn's corner should have pulled him out ages ago. They let him take a beating.
I mean, it was a struggle with YouTuber and Logan Paul, bro. It was a struggle against one boxer and Logan Point.
Really?
Yeah,
Logan Paul.
That was a farce. That wasn't a.
That's an exhibition.
That's not
even. Come on, we're talking boxing. That's not serious.
That's just a circus. That is.
And let's be real, Manny.
And it's also somebody that's 200 pounds bigger than him.
That would be that would be like saying, you know, I could counter that just by saying Floyd struggled more with Hatton while Pacquiao knocked him out in 2 rounds. You know, or Floyd struggled more with Cotto and Pacquiao annihilated Cotto. Like you could go back and forth.
Cotto was clearly weight drained. Cotto was clearly weight drained.
Yeah, but you got to remember
145. What was the catch weight? 145. After that, Cotto immediately moved up to 154 because he couldn't even make 147 healthy.
Yeah, but what it was is you can't when you talk about weight draining, it makes normally the guy that the other guy's weight draining him, he's normally coming in much bigger. Manny Pacquiao, you're saying weight drain, but he's only making an even playing field for himself because he's a small guy.
The guy.
He's not gonna. If you can imagine, So it doesn't make sense. You're saying it's not weight, Brent. If you came preparing to fight that
147 is comfortable for Pacquiao though, because he's been fighting at 147 for the last 12 years.
Yeah. But guys, you gotta look at it.
He's not comfortable. He's the guys that he's fighting are much bigger than him. Much bigger.
That's what these guys don't get.
Imran,
Like Floyd is
Imran.
bigger. Floyd is naturally bigger than Manny Pacquiao. So the fights, the comparisons that you guys are making, they're going to be easier for Floyd. That's why I would take Floyd over Manny Pacquiao. It's the same reason.
But
Floyd has all the physical advantages.
Also this.
Floyd
and
Hatton,
Cotto and Hatton.
Guys, one at a time. Let Reb Reed speak first. Go on, Reb Reed.
Okay. So we review Cotto and Hatton, and they always ask these guys who fought both of them, who was the better fighter. A lot of these guys, is Cotto and Hatton, both said Floyd. And you guys know Hatton not a big fan of Floyd personally, but he said that even though he lost to Manny more decisively, he said Floyd was the better fighter. So you gotta look at it that way too.
Yeah,
you
but
wouldn't know that if they both went
that's
10
a different
rounds.
that's a different topic.
No, it's not. We're talking about Floyd and
no, we're talking about legacy. Legacy.
No, let me say something.
Talking about legacy.
No, but when he's comparing them to fights, you can only compare someone that they both went 10 rounds with. And I'll tell you something now. At that time, it's good that Rick Hatton went out in the second round because he would have got his face, he would have been in hospital. So, you can't compare saying that Floyd Mayweather beat him up and he's a better fighter, Ricky Hatton says, because he's been in there longer, been in there for half an hour with him. When he's been with the guy 6 minutes and just flattens you, you know what I mean? You don't know where you are. You understand? He's not going to admit that and say,
so Manny has more power. Okay, Manny has more power. That doesn't make him a better fighter. Manny has more power. That does not make him a better fighter.
You compared the fights, and I'm just saying you can't compare the fights because that Ricky Hatton fight, as I said, he was in there with Mayweather for half an hour. He was only in there for 6 minutes. So if my opinion there, Manny Pacquiao beat him easier because it took him 6 minutes to go home, where Mayweather took him 10 rounds. So if you want to compare fights, so yeah.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Reb Reed, that Hatton was bigger than Pacquiao. Hatton was smaller than Floyd. Let's look at it that way. Hatton was Manny Pacquiao fighting Hatton. He was
who had the easier time with Marquez?
Yeah, counterpuncher though.
Facts.
Floyd.
Okay.
Yeah, that question.
Marquez was no match for Floyd. Styles make fights.
Okay. Which fighter did Floyd fight here that gave him a challenge that you actually thought beat him? I would actually beat him.
That's how great Floyd is. He makes it look easy.
No. Let me say something. No. Manny Pacquiao, 4 guys here that was a challenge for him where like counter punches were his problem, where his Achilles heel, which most fighters have. Maybe Mayweather doesn't. But anyway, he didn't fight guys that were fast and in and out and guys that had speed and guys that had good timing and power. He always fought guys that were slow or less experienced or slow.
Okay, let me say this.
Whatever. Go on, tell me.
This is my last point. Let me say this.
Yeah.
Who on Manny's resume is better than obviously Manny himself and Canelo? Go ahead.
Who's on Manny's resume is better than? That's not what we're talking about, though. Are you changing something?
We're talking about legacy. That matters.
Okay. Well,
but nobody on Floyd. I don't get that because nobody on Floyd's resume is better than Manny.
Exactly. So that should. Hey, let's look at it this way, Imran. Look at it this way. Let me say this. Look at it this way. When you have 2 great fighters from their era, and they're both very, very close, what's one way for you to separate them? Okay, let's put them in the ring together. Guess what?
No.
One guy came out
on top. That's not fair.
No.
We're talking about who's great.
Nope.
When you're talking about who's great.
Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson.
No. Let's slow down. When we're talking about greats, you're talking about guys that
way off.
challenge themselves and prove they were great. Manny Pacquiao could have fought no counter punches and maybe would have had no losses. A couple of losses were robberies anyway. Like Tim Badley and what's Jeff Horn.
Okay.
So if you take the counter punches away. Say that again.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go on.
Okay. So I mean, let's be real. If Pacquiao would have beat Floyd that night, you wouldn't be using that as a as you know, something to use against Floyd?
because Pacquiao was big. Pacquiao was smaller than
Talking about
Floyd.
greatness.
He's the underdog.
Like, for example, Roberto Duran beat Sugar Ray Leonard, right? But Roberto Duran, a lot of people rank Roberto Duran higher than Sugar Ray Leonard as an all-time great because of the fact that he was a lightweight and he beat, even though we all know Sugar Ray fought Duran's fight in that first fight, but Roberto had a massive disadvantage. He was smaller than all of the guys.
Tommy Hearns knocked out Roberto Duran cold.
No,
and Roberto Duran ranks way above Tommy Hearns. Way above.
Yeah,
Tommy
but
Hearns.
nobody considered Tommy Hearns the best of his era, like they do with Floyd and Manny. That's a different comparison.
But look who was in that era.
No,
like,
the point.
There was killers in that era. Come on, you can't say there was. Yeah, there were Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler.
You're right.
You know, Roberto Duran. You don't think they were killers?
There were. No, they definitely were.
Some of them would say they're better than Floyd and Pacquiao. Right? You don't think people say that? You don't think people say that Sugar Ray is better than Floyd?
No, they definitely do say that.
Yeah. So
the reason,
that's what I'm saying.
But we're talking about this
the reason for that ranking is because Roberto Duran beat Sugar Ray Leonard. Tommy Hearns didn't beat Sugar Ray Leonard. He only gave him a draw.
What?
He did. But Roberto Duran beat Ray Leonard. Tommy Hearns never beat Ray Leonard. So that's the difference between those two.
Oh, but Tommy Hearns beat the Roberto Duran though.
He did, but let's.
He knocked him out 2 rounds.
He did, but he didn't beat Ray Leonard.
No, he didn't beat Ray Leonard, but he beat the guy that beat Ray Leonard.
But they fought in the prime though, so if you're trying to compare Manny Pacquiao and Floyd's fight, they didn't find the prime, so you can't compare the fights.
The point that everybody is trying to make though is that you can't fighting one matchup is not the way you separate guys because there's different weight classes, there's different sizes. So if I put Floyd Mayweather in a weight class with, let's say, Tommy Hearns and Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard, who are naturally bigger than Floyd, and the majority beat Floyd, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are greater than Floyd if Floyd achieved greater things in lower weight classes, because he's at a disadvantage. So you can't go based on one-on-one matchups.
Okay, but
you're making it seem as if Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather are not the same size. If Manny Pacquiao was the same size as Floyd and he fought Marcus, Manny Pacquiao would probably kill Marcus, bro. He would probably kill Marcus.
No, but look at this. Let's not pretend like Manny doesn't have some advantages going his way too. He hits a lot harder than Floyd, and he probably has faster hand speed than Floyd. So
Floyd
let's not act like Floyd. Huh? Yes, he is.
Floyd
but
is super
he's
fast.
not as fast as Pretty Boy Floyd. That's prime Floyd.
He's still fast.
Nobody's beating him.
We're not comparing Pacquiao to Maidanas.
Yeah, I mean, when we compare weight classes, Mike was right. I mean, like Sugar Ray Leonard started at 147, and Floyd was at 130. You know, the completely, a lot of weight classes there.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at a prime Sugar Ray and a prime Mayweather, you could make an argument that he was 135.
Yeah.
Sugar Ray was 147. So there's big. If they fought, and as Mike said, and Sugar Ray put a beating on Floyd, right, which he could have done, right, in his prime, because Sugar Ray was a phenomenon, right. That doesn't mean that Sugar Ray is greater than Floyd, in my opinion, just because of that win, because he's supposed to beat Floyd. He's naturally bigger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If Floyd went up and fought Golovkin, just say, right, and got beat by Golovkin, that don't mean Golovkin's greater than Floyd, does it?
Right.
No, but the difference is Floyd and Manny have a very similar resume, so that you can compare them a little bit better for when you have two guys with similar resumes, you got to have things that can separate them a little bit, and having a one-on-one fight is one of those things you can use.
And this is not a one fight. This is not a one fight thing. It's not a one fight thing. Pacquiao fought at 147 for years, over a decade. He's fought at 147. It's not because he's small.
He's smaller. That's the point. That
Yeah,
he's
but you guys
smaller.
act like Floyd a giant or something. It's not that much of a size.
No,
I mean,
he's not. He's not a giant.
Yes,
yes, exactly to Pacquiao.
If
No,
they
he's
fought
not.
their normal weight classes, smaller weight classes, 130 or
Floyd is not.
135, Floyd would have been a
Floyd
much,
not fighting his
much
natural
tougher to
size
beat.
either.
Pacquiao won his first title at flyweight, super featherweight. Manny Pacquiao won his first world title.
Okay, let's also
Floyd
not
Mayweather won his
pretend
first world title at super featherweight.
One more question.
But I just don't understand
when's
why
the last time
why does that matter? Why does that matter so much? If it's not like Pacquiao came up to 147 and fought 1 or 2 fights. He fought there for over a decade. At what point do you call somebody a welterweight? Say, oh, they're not really a welterweight. They're too small, but they fight there for over a decade. Come on, man.
Yes, that's a good point. Good point. When we're comparing them as a matchup together, right? Here's what you're saying. You're saying, right? You're saying they're both great. Yeah, they're both great.
Bro, that's still not that still doesn't distinguish you.
Right.
Yeah, but bro, that still doesn't distinguish the argument.
What we're trying to say is that both of them are all-time greats, right? Both of them skill levels are very high. But now when you're matching them up together, the fact that Floyd is bigger than Pacquiao, right? It makes a difference in the fight because their skill level. Now, Pacquiao might be able to beat everybody else because the skill level of everybody else isn't on the same level as Floyd.
Okay,
so when he came up against Floyd,
in other words,
size
in other words, you could choose whatever weight class you want. You could choose lightweight. You could choose super featherweight. You could choose junior welterweight. And if they both fight, Floyd is always going to be bigger than Pacquiao.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys love breaking up the weight classes, but those lower weight classes are nowhere near as competitive as the higher one. Like flyweight. Who fights at flyweight?
No.
But then you gotta say as well.
Sean Porter, as far as the frame, Sean Porter is not that much bigger than Pacquiao.
The lineal champion at flyweight, though.
Oh, Sean Porter's
and then he had a massive run at
Pacquiao.
Who do you beat at flyweight?
You think Sean Porter's the same
weighs
size
about 190? 180.
When you look at their frames, how tall is Sean Porter? How tall is Sean Porter?
No, but not height-wise. Height don't mean any. Like Amir Khan and Canelo were the same height. That don't mean Amir Khan's bigger than him. Height-wise,
yeah, Amir Khan's the same height as Mike Tyson. Amir Khan's got a similar height to Mike Tyson. Amir Khan fight a heavyweight.
Yeah.
So if you weigh both fighters in and they both weigh the same and they both the same height, you're gonna say that they're two different sizes?
So I'm asking you, Marlo. I'm asking you, is Amir Khan and Canelo the same size? You tell me. They're the same height.
Did they weigh in at the same weight?
No, but that's beside the point, though. You can't tell
me. If so, then they were the same size for that fight.
They weren't, though, because Canelo was 30 pounds heavier on the night. Probably 20, 25, 30 pounds heavier.
Yeah, and Khan was out of his comfort zone.
So if you both make the same weight and one guy goes to a buffet, that helps the guy that goes to the buffet?
Yeah? You don't think that... Mike, what do you think?
Gaining 30 pounds? Do you think gaining over 10 pounds in one day is healthy?
Against Amir Khan, yes.
Yeah, because he was fighting a guy that's naturally smaller than him, and he was always favored in the fight, and now he's putting on huge amount of weight. Imagine you fight someone heavier than you.
Well, then there should have been no way. There should have been no way Floyd could beat him. There should be no way that Floyd Mayweather could beat him then.
But Floyd Mayweather had a rehydration clause on Canelo.
A catch weight, which is worse.
Canelo wins, but not Manny's.
It's a catch weight, which is worse.
Catch weight as well.
Exactly.
Everything Floyd's done, there's always like a little but this, but that.
Hey, that's his problem, bro. That's his problem.
But he had a
that's not our
problem.
Well. That's not our problem. That's his.
He's the one that
chose these things.
Exactly. If you're talking about rehydration, if it's the same rules for every fight, then of course
we judge history, innit? You have to look at legacy.
Yeah, that's why it's
Because
hard.
you see, here's the
Andre
thing though.
Brown.
Here's the logic. You're saying that, like I just said to you, that if two guys
No one
weighing the
asked
same,
Floyd Mayweather to fight Robert Guerrero instead of guys like Keith Thurman.
Amir Khan. You really think Amir Khan could beat Floyd Mayweather?
Back then, no, back then, Floyd. So why do you fight Amir Khan's leftovers twice? Why do you fight Amir Khan's leftovers twice then? Why do you fight Amir Khan's leftovers twice then?
Why did Pacquiao fight Floyd's leftovers?
Come on, man. We're having a serious conversation. Stop it.
He fought Marcus Maidana twice.
You know,
Amir Khan's
the best
leftovers.
way,
Don't fight
the
Amir
best
Khan.
way,
Why did Keith Thurman?
Mike brought up that point though.
The
Mike
best-
brought at the start. Mike said, "Why didn't Floyd fight Amir Khan?"
the best way
He
for
wouldn't
Amir
fight
Khan
Paul.
to have got the Floyd Mayweather fight
No,
was if he had
Floyd
beaten
never fights
Adrian
fast boxing,
Broner.
bro.
Why
Floyd
didn't
always ducked,
Manny Pacquiao fight Canelo?
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question, Rev Reed? Then Mike
Yes.
brought up this point earlier as well. So you think that Floyd? So you know how when Floyd put up the poll about fighting Maidana and Khan?
Yep.
Why do you think Floyd picked Maidana instead of Khan? Was that because
Well,
Maidana was a tough fight?
Yeah, he was a
Maidana,
plodder.
for one, is actually a tougher. That's a tougher
No, he's
stylistic
not.
fight for.
No, he's not. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's a
Amir
plodder.
That's a
beat
tougher
Maidana,
stylistic
bro.
fight for Floyd.
Amir beat
Marcus
Maidana.
Maidana is a plodder, bro. Marcus Maidana is a plodder,
Yes,
bro.
but you guys watch boxing long enough. You know styles make fights.
Styles do
Maidana
make
is
fights. That's why he didn't fight Khan in it. The styles make fights.
Hold on, wait.
That's your point.
Was that
Can I give him
before
24?
or after? Was that before or after Amir Khan got knocked out by Danny Garcia?
After.
Much after. It was after. It was after Marcus Maidana got
you didn't
schooled by
answer my
Alexander.
question. You didn't answer my
It was after
question.
that as well, bro.
Practice styles make fights, right?
Yeah.
Danny Garcia punches harder than Floyd Mayweather, so that's a completely it's a completely different style. What I'm saying to you is, you didn't answer the question, Reb Reed and Marlo. If you want to jump in as well, did Floyd Mayweather pick Marcus Maidana over Amir Khan, thinking that he was a tougher fight? Yes or no? Amir Khan won the poll. On his poll, Floyd said, "I'm going to put our poll to the fans." Amir Khan won the poll, but yet he still chose Maidana. Why? I'm asking you, why did he do that?
Everybody knows that once Maidana got with Robert Garcia, he was a totally different fighter. That version of Maidana would have never lost to Amir Khan.
Yeah.
But how do
and
we
also,
know that,
you gotta
though?
think about it. You gotta think about this, Imran. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You gotta think about it this way. At that time, Maidana had a huge buzz because he destroyed Adrian Broner, who was like a huge prospect.
I get that. But Adrian Broner, what I'm saying to you, Adrian Broner wasn't better than Khan, was he? You think Adrian Broner is better than Khan?
No, he wasn't.
Yeah,
He's not better than Khan, but he would have been a benchmark for Floyd.
Mike, what do you think? Mike, do you think Adrian Broner is better than Khan?
I don't know.
No, but Adrian Broner's got a similar style to Floyd. He would have seen how
Adrian Broner beat nobody. As far as I can remember, who did Adrian Broner beat? No one. I can't think of any. He beat a Paulie Malignaggi who Khan knocked out 5 years prior. So who did he beat? Who did Adrian? I can't think of one guy that was world class. Paulie Malignaggi is the only guy that I can think of, and like I said to you, Khan knocked Paulie out 5 years prior. So I'm asking you guys, who did Adrian Broner beat? I can't think of one name that he's beat of any kind of level.
No one.
But
I've got to admit, he was good at 135.
Yeah, but who was there at 135? There was nobody there.
Celestino Caballero.
He lost to everyone. He literally, Adrian Broner lost to Maidana. He lost to Porter. He lost to Mikey Garcia. He lost to Pac. He didn't beat anyone.
Broner's
hey, man, leave AB alone.
The thing is, the media had hyped Adrian Broner up to be the next Floyd Mayweather. I think on that basis, if Amir Khan had beaten Broner at the stage where he was undefeated, that would have, Amir Khan would have become a big name in the US, and that would have pushed the fight. for Floyd Mayweather. I mean,
what the point I'm making is that Adrian Broner was never that great, right? He was never that good, in my opinion.
But Marcos Madonna, he had other guys like Victor Ortiz. He beat Victor Ortiz.
Yeah, he beat Victor Ortiz. Yeah.
Imran.
Mm-hmm.
I think Adrian Broner was a bit similar to the way Jeff Lacey was bigged up here in the UK.
I would say Jeff Lacey was better than Adrian Broner.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, what do you think? You live in the US. What do you think about Broner?
I can barely hear, man. The noise in the background.
Guys, if you can cut off the noise in the background. But yeah, Mike, in terms of what do you think about Adrian Broner?
Oh, you guys said it. I mean, he was a guy who was when he came up, he with a lot of potential. A lot of people were saying that, they were comparing him to Floyd because of his stance and the shoulder roll, which was all bullshit. But he didn't live up to the hype. He was not anything close to a guy like Floyd. He didn't have the dedication. He had the, the skills. He didn't have. He never developed. He never got to that level. So he lost the majority of his big fights, if you want to call them big fights, because it's not like he fought like Floyd, or I know he fought Pacquiao after, but I'm saying like when they were in their prime, his biggest fights, and I'm talking about guys like Maidana, Sean Porter, Mikey Garcia, he lost them all, bro. He lost them all.
That brings me to a point, like why did Pacquiao fight him? Why did Pacquiao fight Adrian Broner? We all saw that Adrian Broner was not that good, and then Pacquiao fought him way after we found out he wasn't that good. Why did Pacquiao fight him?
Broner, so he could beat him.
It was a big fight, big payday. Possibly.
Yeah, it was a payday fight.
That wasn't a fight. Let's be honest. Pacquiao was going to batter Broner, and to be honest, I remember that time. I was impressed.
When we first saw that fight, the hardcore boxing fans that saw that fight got signed, it was like, okay, I mean that's almost not even worth watching. You're just gonna watch. That's like watching an NBA team play against a college team, and it's gonna be a blowout, a 30-point blowout.
Yeah, that was terrible, man. That was terrible. I remember at the time I was disappointed. That was
like LeBron versus rookie.
Yeah.
Imran, what kills me about Broner is that he had the potential to be a great fighter because he's got an excellent chin. He's got some power because he knocked down, what's his name, Sean Porter. Not many people have done it. I think the only one was Spence, right? So he had the tools to do it, but he just didn't have the discipline. And I feel sorry for him, actually.
I don't know. I don't know what you guys think. I just don't know whether he was ever that good.
Yeah, he wasn't.
No, he never
wasn't
lived
that good.
You guys said it.
I don't know, because I remember seeing Adrian Broner against Gavin Reese, and that was the first time I saw Adrian Broner fight. And to be honest, he looked terrible in that fight, and that was against old Gavin Reese that was so much smaller than him. And I was like, are they saying this guy's gonna be the next Floyd? I was like, no chance. This guy's
the most impressive thing from Adrian Broner came in a loss. The most impressive thing in his career is when he dropped Sean Porter. I didn't see that coming. That was the only thing that I thought was impressive.
Yeah. He finished well too against Maidana. If you look at that last 2 rounds, he finished well. Like if that was a 15-round fight, that fight he could have gotten like, he may have pulled off a draw, for example.
He's been after Maidana basically destroyed his spirit. He's been gunshot ever since.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, he won. He's a 4-division world champion, but like I said, I can't even remember the guys that he fought for the title. For me, his best win is Paulie Malignaggi. That's the best name I can think of that he's beat.
Actually, Imran,
maybe.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually a good point about Manny as well. Who are some of these guys he beat at these lower weight classes, like at flyweight, that deserve mention to be in the Hall of Fame?
Pacquiao beat the lineal champ at 112. The man who beat the man who beat the man.
Who was that?
Lineal champ.
Who is this man?
I got a question about the lineal. The lineal, they say it's the man that beat the man that beat the man. But I looked up the history of the lineal in the heavyweight division at least, and I seen that belt vacated so many times. So if it's the man that beat the man that beat the man, how is it being stripped and vacated and stuff like that? Ali had it, and he got stripped when he wouldn't go to the war. And then Joe Frazier had it, but he never fought Ali, but he's the lineal champion.
I don't know this lineal. I don't know what you guys make of it. I don't know. It's a bit of a like. It's not really a belt, is it? It's just like the guy that beat the man. What like? I don't know. I don't know how you
Ring Magazine
belt.
But
that's the problem. It's not the guy that beat them. It's not the man that beat the man that beat the man. It's not, because it's been vacated, stripped. Yeah. It's not always lost in the ring. Yeah, Manny Pacquiao and Spence were about to fight for a vacant lineal title. Who was the lineal title before they were about to fight for it?
Mayweather.
But okay, so how is it the guy that beat the guy when Mayweather's not in the ring?
Well, I guess if
Mayweather retired,
he vacated, right? So then there's a new consensus that forms around Spence, for example.
Then it's not the man that beat the man for the lineal, because
in some cases probably not in all cases.
And the reason I say that is
it's not always going to be.
I hear Pacquiao fans saying the lineal is more important than the undisputed, but undisputed means you're the only champion in the division. Nobody else is calling themselves champion except for you, whether that be lineal or WBC, IBF, WBA, whatever. So how is lineal more important when it's not even the guy that beat the guy?
Yeah, but then you got going to promote it and all that kind of stuff, where this guy couldn't fight him at that time and blah blah blah. So you can't compare either. But 5'8" lineal champion, Manny Pacquiao is a 5'8" lineal champion. That's a fact.
So. So Marlo, I'm come to you. What do you think Canelo needs to do to reach that kind of level? Because right now, Floyd and Manny seem are on a much higher level to Canelo. If Canelo was to go and smash, just say beat Plant, knock Plant out, and then go on to become an undisputed light heavyweight champion, where do you think that places Canelo?
It still doesn't place him with Pacquiao and Mayweather. Not even close. I got Pacquiao and Mayweather both top 10. Canelo, for him to even crack like the top 40, top 30, I think he has to do something either very spectacular or fight everybody that everybody is asking him to fight. He would have to fight a lot. Like he would have to fight the Andrades, the Charlos. He would have to just take out everybody again, and then not even just them. I would want to see him fight Triple G again, because both of those fights that he fought Triple G weren't clean. I mean, they were obviously, the first one was a draw. The second one wasn't like a clean win where people weren't saying that he did. Some people were saying he lost, so he would have to dominate there. I mean, other than those fights, he hasn't really beat anybody. Like, he hasn't beat another Hall of Fame. Anybody else that you can say is a Hall of Famer.
Facts. So,
is a Hall of Famer.
Manny Pacquiao and Floyd. Hey guys, Manny Pacquiao and Floyd have like dominated Hall of Fame fighters in some of their fights. There's not one single fight by Canelo where he's dominated another great fighter or like absolutely destroyed them. Not one. So what he needs to do is, for one, like he just said, Marlo, he got to beat Charlo, Andrade, David Benavidez.
Well, what do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean by destroy?
For example, you saw what?
Who did Floyd destroy?
Well, I wouldn't say destroy, but he definitely dominated Canelo for 12 rounds, and Marquez.
No, but there's a smaller guy. Okay, he beat Cotto clearly. Canelo beat Cotto clearly.
But he didn't destroy him.
Cotto.
No, I know he didn't destroy him, but that was
Cotto's last fight, though. I mean, that was Cotto at the very end of his rope.
Okay, well, Canelo was at
He
the
didn't do
very
that to a
start
prime,
of his
Kodo.
road.
He didn't do that at a
How
prime
And then
to a prime, Kodo.
He didn't even fight Triple G in his prime, and he fought him to like the inch of his
but
life.
Marcus was 2 divisions smaller than Floyd.
Okay, and
What
You
you want me to elaborate more, or what do you mean? And like, it's obvious. Like, what else do you want me to say? He's 2 divisions lower, bro. Like, don't you get it? Like, if you put a Hall of Fame guy, way smaller than Canelo Alvarez, anybody that's smaller, like super smaller than Canelo Alvarez, let's say Marcus, who fought at 147 or at 140, and you put him with Canelo Alvarez at 154, even in his prime, Canelo's
Let me ask you this.
probably gonna
Let me ask you
smash
this.
Marcus.
Would you put a prime Marquez? Would you put him at 147 against Robert Guerrero?
Would I put him? What do you mean? Would I put him?
Yeah. Would you if you put a prime Marquez at 147 against Robert Guerrero? Would you put your money on Juan Manuel Marquez?
Nope.
Against
You would think that Robert Guerrero could beat Marquez?
No.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks that. Come on, you're gonna put your money on Marquez, right? You're gonna put your money on Marquez.
Marquez will kill Guerrero.
If you put Marquez up against Carlos Baldomir, are you gonna put your money on Carlos Baldomir or Juan Manuel Marquez?
I don't understand your point, though, bro. I don't understand your point.
No,
like,
my point is, if you feel like he could beat those guys, then he's a legit 147 pounder.
What?
Yep.
So if you feel like he can beat those guys, you feel like he can fight at that weight class. So you shouldn't bring up the weight excuse, because if you feel like he can beat some of the top 147 pounders, which those guys were the top, Carlos Baldomir almost knocked out Zab Judah, beat Zab Judah easily.
You don't understand size differences, bro. Honestly, though, you
have
no idea.
If that's the case, then how could he shouldn't be able to beat those guys then? If size is the reason.
Nobody's talking about weight classes, bro. You're
not great. That's why you're bringing up champions that aren't that great and weak, and saying, well, Marquez can beat that guy at 147. We're comparing Hall of Famers like great. So for example, it's like saying, for example, someone moving up and fighting Ryan Garcia, for example, right? Just because he can beat Ryan Garcia doesn't mean he can beat Roberto Duran. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I got a better one, Imran. Roy Jones Jr. went up to heavyweight and beat Reese. Does that mean he's gonna fucking beat Mike Tyson? Does that mean he's gonna beat Evander Holyfield?
Yeah,
because he fought at heavyweight.
I think Roy Jones at his best. If Roy Jones never came back down,
Tyson, you know, he might have.
If Roy Jones never came,
no way.
He got knocked out by Tarver, bro. He got knocked out by Tarver. How is he gonna beat Mike Tyson?
Yeah, but Tarver was lucky. That was lucky.
He was drained. He was. Come on, that was a prime Roy Jones.
No, the Roy Jones.
Hang on, guys. Are you saying a prime Roy Jones beats a prime Tyson at heavyweight?
No, not prime. Not prime. The
if Buster Douglas can beat a prime Mike Tyson, then yes, a Roy Jones could.
See, this is what I mean. This is what I mean when I say that they do not understand. They don't understand size differences.
The Roy Jones that beat John Ruiz at that time would have beaten that Mike Tyson.
Can I just touch on the topic of the Canelo? Like, you guys are saying that Canelo has to fight this guy, that guy. But like, when did Mayweather ever clean that vision? Like, Costa Zoo was a top guy at 140. Mayweather never fought him. Paul Williams and Marguerite, top guys at welterweight. Floyd started cherry picking Ricky Hatton and Marquez, fucking lightweights. So like, you guys are holding Canelo to standards that you never held Mayweather to.
You lost credibility with the Margarito thing. The Margarito thing, you can't mention Margarito. Margarito was a cheating bum, putting cement in his
we didn't know that though.
And then he got caught. And then he got knocked out. He got knocked out by Shane Mosley. And then Floyd Mayweather fought Shane Mosley right after.
2 years later.
Guys, speak one at a time. It's like we can't hear what's going on. One at a time.
Yeah, I just want to make the point that whoever was mentioning Canelo needs to do this and that, he's not being consistent, because Mayweather was never held to these standards. When did Mayweather ever clean at 140 or 147? Never. So they say Canelo needs to do this and that. Like I feel like it's making some like people look biased. I'm making people look like fanboys.
Go on, Rebri, go on.
Okay, so I never say he needs to clear out a division. He just needs to fight the best in his era, similar to what Manny and Floyd did. So fighting Callum Smith, fighting Callum Smith.
Yeah, the number one guy in 168. Yeah, the number one guy in 168.
I'll let you speak.
What about Charlo?
Number one guy that no one in that division is one guy. Okay.
So fighting Yildirim,
Callum Smith was the number one guy.
Let Red Breed have his say. Go on.
Let Red Breed speak, man.
Okay. So yeah, I never say he needs to clear out any particular division, but fighting guys like Yildirim, Callum Smith, that's not cutting it. You need to beat the best. And that's really, I think that's the real reason why.
Better than Carlos Baldomir. Better than Victor Ortiz.
Carlos Baldomir had the belt. He had the belt.
Bro, Carlos Baldomir is a fucking journeyman, man.
And it was supposed to be Zab Judah, but Zab Judah lost to him. Zab Judah lost. Ain't nobody tell Zab Judah to lose to him. That's why. That's why Floyd fought him. Floyd would have never. Floyd would have never fought.
So you're telling me Carlos Baldomir was a more dangerous fighter than Paul Williams than Tony Margarito? Seriously.
Antonio Margarito was a cheater. Didn't he get knocked out by Shane Mosley? Did Floyd fight Shane Mosley right after? Did Floyd fight Shane Mosley right after that?
3 years later. No, he didn't. He fought him
wait, 3 years later? No, that's a lie because I played basketball. I played basketball with Shane Mosley right after he knocked out Margarito. Floyd fought him less than a year later.
No, he fought him 19 months later.
19 months.
Was that Shane Mosley's next fight?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Right after he knocked out Margarito, he fought Shane Mosley. So you're saying he should have fought Margarito instead of fighting Shane Mosley? So you feel like he should have fought Margarito instead of Mosley?
No, see, you're being clever. You're mixing up the timelines, though. That's what you're doing to make your argument look stronger. But anyone that studied the sport would know you're actually mixing up the timelines. But Margarito and Paul Williams were the number one welterweights in the division. Mayweather took a 2-year layoff and then spent the next 2 years fighting fucking lightweights like Marquez and Hatton. That's what I'm trying to say to you. He spent the best half a decade.
I'm asking you. Should Floyd Mayweather have fought Margarito instead of Mosley when he fought Mosley?
He's talking about Margarito back in the day.
When Margarito bludgeoned Miguel Cotto,
you talking about when he had semen in his gloves? When he had semen in his gloves?
The cheating gloves.
When he had semen in his gloves, that's when he should have fought him.
Did we know that though? Did we know that back then though?
We know now. And we know it now. We know it now, and we know that it wouldn't be smart to fight somebody that's doing that.
Bro, it's on the agenda, bro. You're like a fanboy, so yeah, all right.
Guys,
I'm just saying, would you fight somebody with semen in their gloves?
Yeah, but did he know that back then? You're not making any sense.
I agree, Paulo. I agree. Guys, let's keep it like debate level. What Jimmy's saying is right. Jimmy's saying at the time we didn't know that he had semen in his gloves. You're speaking on hindsight that now we know he had semen in his gloves. But at the time, Floyd, we didn't know that he was cheating, did we? We didn't know that he was. But Floyd wasn't interested. That's what he's trying to point out. Even when he beat Cotto, he didn't seem interested. Do you see what I'm saying, Marlo?
Did you guys see the video where Margaret pulled up on Floyd in a restaurant and Floyd started starting?
Yeah.
Saying he's not in the sport to fight the best. Yeah, and he started starting, bro. That looked like fear to me. I'm just keeping it real. That looked like a scared man.
You know what it sounds like? I think you guys are just upset Floyd never took a L. Like that's what you're really upset.
No, Floyd's a legendary fighter, bro. Floyd's a legendary fighter. No, Floyd's an all-time great, bro. But to sit here and like, we're not gonna start making up facts in it. Like, you're judging legacy in it, and that's what you have to go by. If you never fought Paul Williams and Margarito or welterweight, and instead took 2 years off and fought Ricky Hatton and Marquez, what am I supposed to do? Sit here and pretend like I spent half a decade fighting like 18
years? I didn't fight him either. Pacquiao didn't fight Paul Williams.
Was not at the weight at that time. Manny Pacquiao was not at the weight at that time. You see what you need to do your research, bro. You're getting the timelines mixed up.
Yeah. I mean,
guys, about questions for you.
You guys
go on, let Rare Breed speak. Go on, Rare Breed. Have your say.
Okay. So you keep saying that people who Floyd didn't fight. Pacquiao could have fought Canelo at 154, couldn't he?
Bro, we're not talking about Pacquiao. Though. You're comparing. You're saying Canelo needs to do this and he needs to do that. I'm saying someone was basically Canelo can't reach the level of a Mayweather and Pacquiao because he hasn't done this or that. And my point was Mayweather never did this or that. Where were you? Like you said, he never fought Andre. Who did Floyd fight at welterweight? That was a young, slick, dangerous champion like an Andrade. He never fought Tim Bradley. He never fought Keith Thurman. He never fought Amir Khan. He never fought Errol Spence. He never fought Crawford. He never fought these guys. He fought guys like Andre Berto, Robert Guerrero, Victor Ortiz. But washed up cokehead in De La Hoya, who was 50. Yeah, sure, throw that in as well.
So he's washed up when he fights Floyd, but when Pacquiao beats him,
when he fights Pacquiao,
they're both. He was washed out with both.
No. The only difference is when De La Hoya fought Pacquiao, he was washed up and weight drained.
Sure, yeah, but but the Manny Pacquiao jumped up 3 weight divisions as a 10-1 underdog and beat the shit out of Oscar De La Hoya, and he didn't go no split decision either, bro. He ended his career. That's the difference.
Weight drain. De La Hoya had to kill himself to make weight, though.
He chose the weight, bro. That was the same weight he was a rematch Floyd Mayweather. This is why you need to do your research. This was the same
weight. There's a reason why he didn't fight Floyd at 147 because he knew he would have trouble with making the weight.
No, he tried. No. He tried to fight Floyd at 47. Floyd Mayweather retired, bro. The rematch was always going to be at 47. When Floyd retired, Oscar tried to fight Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto lost to Margarito. Then he picked Pacquiao. Pacquiao was actually his third choice. First, it was a Mayweather rematch at 47. Mayweather retired. Then he tried to fight.
I'm talking about the first fight.
Let me ask you this.
I'm talking about
how many divisions did Floyd move up? So wait. You're giving Floyd credit.
Guys, one at a time, guys.
Jimmy, I've got a question for you. Jimmy. Talking about jumping up in weights and invincibility, would you say Roy Jones was more invincible than Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao in his prime?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Just wanted to ask you
that. Bro, yeah.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Mike, Marlo, Little Penny, was Roy Jones more formidable in his prime? Then
he was.
Roy Jones, to me, was the best fighter I've ever seen in his prime. Better than Pacquiao, better than Mayweather in his prime. That guy was untouchable. The only guy that could beat Roy Jones was probably Sugar Ray Robinson. That's it. Even Roy Jones could have beaten Sugar Ray Leonard too at middleweight because he was bigger than Sugar Ray Leonard. The only guy to me that could beat Roy Jones Jr. in his prime is probably Sugar Ray Robinson. That's it.
But even then, Little Penny, it wouldn't just be like if they had 10 fights, it would be like 6-4 or something. It wouldn't be like it'd be very, very close, 5-5, 6-4. It wouldn't be like somebody
what would you
dominating
say, Mike? What would you say, Mike?
I probably agree. Roy Jones was a phenom, but the only argument that I've heard against Roy Jones, and I know this is kind of crazy because when you look at his resume, it doesn't seem like that, but a lot of people kind of question that he didn't have enough names in his era.
Yeah,
I know he beat Hopkins.
Man.
Hold on.
Ahmed, one sec.
Hold on. I know he beat Hopkins, right? That's what I was gonna get to. I know he beat Hopkins, but a lot of people, felt that was not the best version of Hopkins, right? A lot of people think that was like not the Hopkins that we got to know later on in his career. And then the James Toney, which is probably Roy was a monster at that point, bro. He was a monster.
No, Roy was a monster in his late 90s. He was a monster in the late 90s when he beat Reggie Johnson and all that. He just schooled everyone.
Yeah. Well, he was schooling everyone at that time too. He was schooling everyone around that time. Who wasn't he schooling at that time?
Yeah, but none of them. But he wasn't a world champion when he fought Bernard Hopkins. It was for the title at that time. So he was green himself, but still formidable.
No, of course. Like there's no doubt that that's a great win. I'm not saying that that's not a great win, but I'm just giving you the opinion of many people out there. I rank Roy Jones Jr. really, really high. I respect that win.
I think the James Toney win was better. The James Toney was undefeated and a monster in the super middleweight division, and Roy was actually moving up to fight him. And I'll be honest, man, he made James Toney look like a bum in that fight. And James Toney is not a bum; he's a legend. So that was a good win.
Yeah, Mackay, I agree with you that his Roy Jones's resume may not be better than, say, Pacquiao or Floyd. In terms
of names.
And his longevity is not really good too. At the back end of his career, Roy Jones was terrible.
That's why Pacquiao and Mayweather are ranked higher.
Yeah, I agree.
Time,
he was 50, though. He was 50.
I don't know if anyone puts Roy Jones ahead of those guys, man. Whenever someone does an all-time great, people always say Pacquiao, Mayweather in the top 5, but nobody puts Roy Jones in there.
Yeah, but it's because they must have forgot.
It's because legacy wise, this is kind of like going based on the. You could even say that about Floyd and Pacquiao. Legacy wise, you could, they're probably greater than Roy Jones. But a lot of people, when if you put legacy to the side and you just look at the individual skill wise, talent wise, a lot of people take Roy Jones over both of them. So it's kind of one of those debates.
Yes, I agree.
I agree.
Oh, I think by the concept of pound for pound, Manny Pacquiao to be the greatest pound for pound fighter of all time. If you look at all the weights he's climbed and all the fights
Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali.
No, Muhammad Ali is the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's not the greatest pound for pound fighter. Because you can actually make an argument technically Pacquiao is actually more versatile.
Muhammad Ali is the greatest fighter of all time, ever.
Yeah, but don't forget Roy Jones went from 154 to heavyweight.
That's cool. I mean, he went up more weight than Pacquiao too.
Yeah, if you add the numbers up, it works out.
Neither one of them are greater than Ali. Let me ask you this:
Manny Pacquiao started his career at 105 and went all the way up to 154 in it. So body mass index wise, like I'd say he covered more weight range than Roy Jones.
What fighter elevated the sport of boxing more than Ali?
Roy Jones covered more than Pacquiao. Don't forget, he fought 220 or 225 pounds.
Pacquiao had a smaller body though, so it's percentage wise. So it's weight percentage. For featherweight,
let Marlo speak. Let Marlo have his say. Go on, Marlo.
When Muhammad Ali was in his prime, what other boxer raised boxing to the level of popularity and a level of relativity, relevance? Nobody raised it to the level of Ali. When you look at ESPN and Fox, for all the major media outlets, Pacquiao was about to fight Errol Spence and nobody covered it at all. Nobody talked about it. Nobody cared. When Ali was in his prime and Ali had a fight coming up, every mainstream media outlet was covering that fight.
Different era,
bro. Hey, bro, you must be like 90 years old, dog. How old are you?
I'm in my 30s.
Different era, dude.
But you have to. I don't have. You don't have to have recency bias either. I mean, if something is true, it's true. If one person if you talk about how Michael Jordan has basketball right now, basketball is one of the most popular sports in the world. If 10, 15, 50 years down the line, you have the greatest player in the game is such and such, but the sport is on the verge of dying, where people are saying is it a dying sport?
I get you, bro. But let me explain what I think they're trying to say, dog. No doubt, there's no doubt about it that Muhammad Ali, everything that you said about Muhammad Ali is facts, bro. You're right. From a world, as far as like the impact that he had on boxing, not just in boxing but sports in general, nobody can fuck with Ali. Ali is like up there with like with like Pele, it's Pele. Right, exactly. Yeah. But when people are talking about pound for pound and they're bringing up Manny Pacquiao, they're talking about Pacquiao in the sense that he's moved up to different weight classes. So the range, the amount of weight classes that he fought in puts him in a pound for pound category, right? So a heavyweight, for example, only fights in one weight class. You know what I'm saying?
So since Adrian Broner won in 4 different weight classes, if Pacquiao's better than him, better than Ali because of that, Adrian Broner would have to be better than Ali because of that too.
No, because we're considering everything, bro. Like we're not just talking about divisions. You know, we're talking about him moving up and down in divisions, but including the championship titles, the resume, you know, the fighters that he fought, et cetera, et cetera. So that's you know, you can't compare, you can't put Broner in that conversation.
And Mackay,
well, if you want to judge it that, if you want to judge it that way, who did Manny Pacquiao face that was better than a 40-0, 37 knockouts George Foreman?
Juan Manuel Marquez.
Nobody.
Miguel Cotto.
Hold on, who said Marquez? Hey, hey, you
Oscar De La Hoya, who was the favorite?
I would agree. Miguel Cotto was overall more skilled boxer than George Foreman. If you have to keep it real, man. Like
Keith
George
Thurman?
Foreman is obviously a massive favorite.
He said Keith Thurman.
No, I'm saying Miguel Cotto, bro. Miguel Cotto, I'd say he was a more skilled fighter than George Foreman.
That's funny too. He was 30. He was 30. Was he 40-0 with 37 knockouts?
Here's the thing.
Bro, are you saying George Foreman's a more skilled boxer than Miguel Cotto? Like, have you actually seen George Foreman fight?
He's better. He's better all time. Find me somebody that's gonna rank Miguel Cotto over George Foreman.
No, I wouldn't rank him over. You thought as a more skilled boxer.
Here's the thing. You know what? When Ali was going to fight George Foreman, people thought that George Foreman would actually kill Ali. Like, people were worried for his health in there. You know, even when he fought Sonny Liston, people were worried that he would get hurt. You know what I mean? So I definitely do agree with Marlo there that George Foreman win is probably the greatest win in the history of probably one of the, I would say Deffel's got to be top 5 greatest wins of all time. Like when you consider what people were thinking at the time and what people were thinking about what would happen to Ali, right? Come on, man. Nobody thought that Ali. I remember my dad telling me, my uncle telling me, he goes, we were scared that he would hurt Ali. Like at the time, no one was giving him a prayer in that fight. Literally no one. And
Imran, I agree with you, right? But people forget when Pacquiao fought De La Hoya, everyone thought that De La Hoya was going to kill Manny because of his size. Even in the Philippines, everyone thought that De La Hoya was going to win because of his size, and no one wanted Pacquiao to not only no one wanted him to fight De La Hoya because of the size difference, even in the Philippines. Right, not just in America.
I didn't think he would die.
Little Penny. The problem is, right? George Foreman and De La Hoya doesn't have the same kind of fear factor as George Foreman. You know, I just think that at the time that George Foreman was seen as somebody he was a wrecking machine. Let's be honest. At that point, he was an absolute wrecking machine, and I don't think anybody thought the same about De La Hoya fighting Pacquiao. I don't think, was it a case? I can't really remember. I can't really remember at the time, at 2008 when they fought, 2007-8 when they fought.
It can't be George Foreman.
Hey,
it was 2008, 2009.
Yeah, it's something like that. But when I don't feel like it had the same, like Ali was different, like. You know,
that was on another level.
And what you got to remember, Ali was past his prime. He wasn't in his prime when he fought Foreman. And Pacquiao
he never had his legs in it.
De La Hoya was past his prime.
That's why that's a good debate, because that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't always agree with the hype prior to a fight. You know, because a lot of times people say, hey, no, we got to go based on the way people were thinking. But a lot of times people can be wrong. The hype can be dead wrong. So hindsight can sometimes help you and say, you know what, I was wrong. And you could go back and maybe rate that fight in a different way if you want to be fair. Obviously, there's times where people want to use hindsight and they use it in the wrong way, right? Where like when they say someone's a threat and then they're like, he wasn't that good. I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about there's certain fights or specific fights. I think another one that comes to mind is Bernard Hopkins against Trinidad. You know, Bernard Hopkins was underrated way too much, in my opinion, and people thought that Trinidad was going to win easily. He was the favorite in that fight, and then Hopkins completely dominates Trinidad. So sometimes the hype prior to a fight can be way off. The Pacquiao De La Hoya one was ridiculous as well, but the George Foreman one, that one was real. What Imran is saying is real because George Foreman was a monster. He not just that, he had just beaten Ken Norton. He beat Joe Frazier prior to Muhammad Ali. So
not just beat him, destroyed them. Not just beat, destroyed.
Yeah, well, he destroyed everyone. George Foreman destroyed everyone. That was his thing. He was a power guy. But I think if you go back to that fight, I think it's possible that maybe that was a Styles make fights type of fucking matchup. You know, like Muhammad Ali it just seemed like maybe for Foreman, Muhammad Ali was always going to be a problem. You know, maybe he just had the style that affected Foreman a lot more, which is weird because Frazier gave Ali a shitload of problems. You know, and then Foreman killed Joe Frazier.
Makai, if you watch that fight with Ali when he fought Floyd Patterson and when he fought Sonny Liston, did you think that this guy could compete even at middleweight because of his foot speed?
He could never make middleweight though, could he?
Yeah, but I'm saying, but he moved like a middleweight, like at that time, his prime. Like his foot speed was
thin.
Are you asking Mike?
Yeah.
Mike.
Oh, I thought you said Makai. Okay, sorry, my bad. I see what you're saying, man. That was like the lightest version of Ali, right? You're talking about like the lightest version of Ali. Yeah, he was a beast. I mean, but I don't know if he'd be able to make middleweight. I mean, he's probably, but he had the athleticism. I mean, you could say Ali probably one of the most athletic heavyweights of all time. Like for someone that size, he's probably one of the most agile, or might be the most agile athletic heavyweight of all time. He has to be up there.
Yeah, that version of
We've
Ali,
never seen anyone
dance
like that.
When you talk about, when you talk about Roy Jones, who's like, you know, we talked before, like Tyson Fury. I know Ali would kill Tyson Fury, and that version of Ali, he would kill Tyson Fury.
But you know what? That's a good point too, though, to think about, because I actually believe that even though that was an incredible version of Ali, I think that that the size that he put on later on in his career actually helped him. Like I honestly don't think that fighting guys like Joe Frazier or Norton or guys, or even like George Foreman, I'm not sure that version of Ali would fare as well, because that was a light version of Ali. Like, even though he was a heavyweight, that was a way smaller version. And if you saw what George Frazier did to Ali later on, you know, I'm not so sure, dude. I'm not so sure you'll be able to handle the size, because, you know, we have to remember in the heavyweight. No, but hold on. Think about this. When we talk about the heavyweight weight class, bro, there's massive weight disparities, bro. Massive. Like we're talking about 30 pounds, 40 pounds. We've seen guys get outweighed by that much. They make a big ass deal when you see lighter weight classes, when someone outweighs someone 10 pounds, 15 pounds. So these are massive weight disparities. So it's tough to say that version of Ali, that light version of Ali, would fare the exact same way if he was the same guy, because that size that he had and that power, he needed every inch of power, size, chin,
and reflex,
weight to right. And he still had the upper body reflex, but he needed all of that to deal with guys like Joe Frazier.
No, but the thing is,
I disagree
Sonny
with you.
Liston is bigger than Frazier.
Because I feel like Ali had lost. I feel Ali had lost most of his speed and agility. Like when he came back after like 4 years, his legs weren't there. So I actually disagree with you. I think he actually wasn't in his prime when he came back, because he was way more flat-footed. He was slower. He was way faster, sharper. He had better footwork. I feel like Ali's speed and agility, he would have been able to box sort of circles more around Frazier, because when he came back, he had to sort of stand the slug with Frazier more, which played into Frazier's hands in it.
Yeah, and Sonny Liston was bigger than Frazier.
Power.
And Sonny Liston had a better jab than Frazier.
No, Sonny Liston wasn't better than Frazier though.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. No, I agree with that.
I mean, it depends.
How many years did he have to take off though? Was it like 4?
Yeah.
4 years,
yeah. He took a lot of years.
People don't realize the reason why Ali lost his legs. Yeah, he did an exhibition in Japan against like a wrestler, and like that was so tough on him because he was like the wrestler guy was kicking his legs and stuff. Ali actually had like blood clots in his legs, like he was bruised all over. He was off for over 4 years. So when he came back, his legs just weren't there anymore. So he had to adjust his style. He put on more weight because obviously he didn't have the speed and agility and the sharpness that he once had. So I think Ali actually lost. We actually didn't see the best of Ali because obviously he was exiled in that.
Yeah, his best was when he fought Patterson and Sonny Liston. Like he was untouchable. Like when you saw, like Liston has got one of the best jabs in the history of the heavyweight division. And Ali was just like he was like a mosquito there. They couldn't even touch him. And he would have done the same thing with at that time with George Foreman. Like George is so slow. Like he's like a zombie. Like that.
He was still slick though. Ali was still slick. He just wasn't. He just didn't use his legs as much. But he was still slick upper body wise. So he was better at conserving his energy and all that. But again, we're comparing it. The bet. I agree. Like I mean, we're guessing here. We're never really gonna know. You guys are probably right. But I just think that the heavyweights, once he got to that later stage of his career, the heavyweights were bigger. They were bigger. They were bigger than the ones that he fought earlier in his career, and that size always matters, whether people want to admit it or not, or the people want to recognize it or not. Size matters, and weight matters, especially when you're talking about possibly 30, 40 pounds. Do you guys remember what Ali was weighing when he first started? He was like barely over 200.
Yeah.
He'd be a cruiserweight. If Ali was a pro now, he'd be a cruiserweight. All he'd have to do is cut a prime Ali, all he'd have to do is cut a few pounds. He'd make cruiserweight.
So let's say he doesn't go, he doesn't get suspended, right? Even as the years, like let's say he kept on fighting, the years went by, he was gonna get bigger, no matter what. He was gonna get bigger. Yeah. He was gonna get older. He was gonna get bigger. He probably would have still kept some of that athleticism that you guys are talking about, but there's no way that he would have been the exact same size. He would have had to have put on some size to deal with these guys, man. He would have had to have put on size.
Yeah. As you get older, your body gets bigger. Yeah, that's true. Very true. Who could have beaten maybe Ali? The guy who could have beaten Ali in his prime was maybe Joe Louis in his prime, maybe. Because Joe Louis had a chin. He had the hand speed.
I think Ali would have been too athletic for him. I think.
Yeah. I would have had Ali as a winner, but I think it would have been close. The other guy too was Gene Tunney back in the 20s. He was a very slick guy. I think Gene Tunney was the guy who probably invented counterpunching. He could have given Ali a really good fight.
This might be very unpopular. I actually think you're Mike Tyson because I feel like he's actually more versatile fighter than Joe Frazier. So I think he would have given. I would have favored Ali definitely, but I think Mike actually did all right against Ali because Ali did struggle against that Joe Frazier-esque style, and I feel like Tyson's a little better than Joe Frazier.
But Tyson didn't have the stamina though. Like after 6 rounds, he runs out of steam.
No, that's rubbish. Yeah. In his prime, he do it all day long. People just chat rubbish about stamina.
In his prime, he stopped.
In his prime, 18, 12 rounds was nothing for him. He went with Mitch Green and a couple of other guys. It was easy for him.
But those guys aren't all-time greats.
It doesn't matter. But
Tyson is a guy that I don't think ever reached
stamina and combinations all the way.
What do you mean by that?
I'm just saying stylistically.
What do you mean by that, Mike? He didn't ever reach his prime.
Yeah, I think when people view Mike Tyson and they say that that's prime Mike Tyson, they're going based on what we know of his career, right? But if you go based on his age, if you go based on his career, the way his career went, his real prime, assuming that he would have been continued to improve and been dedicated, and he wouldn't gone through all the stuff that he went through, his prime would have been closer to the late 20s, and his skills would have probably developed even more. So the things that he accomplished when he was young, were great, but I don't think that's the true prime of a fighter. Like when you're that young, I don't think that's a true prime of a fighter.
He went to jail though for 4 years.
It's not, but that's what his prime was.
Right, like that was the best version of Mike Tyson for sure. Right, yeah. I just don't think that was his peak. I think he had more potential is what I'm trying to say. If he would have still fought and he would have had the same trainer, because his trainer died, Customato, and a lot of stuff happened to him, right? So he kind of lost his way. Think about the development that he still had. He still had a lot to develop. This is a guy who could have gone way better. He could have gone way better than what he was.
Yeah, true.
You can say that about a lot of fighters, though. I think the problem with the way people look at Mike Tyson is they always look at him as what he could have been or what he should have been instead of actually what he was, which is not, I mean, in my opinion, a Hall of Famer, but barely.
But
even
in his short spell of primeness in his young age, he's still done a lot though, innit?
Now that was
he's first ballot Hall of Famer. He's not barely.
Yeah, but
who did he beat though? Who did he beat outside of an old Larry Holmes?
True,
bro. Larry Holmes is old, bro.
Yeah, but he has other records, though, dog. He has records.
Larry Holmes is undefeated.
Not many people have a street fight with Mitch Green in the pub.
Bro. Larry Holmes was arguably undefeated, bro. And after that fight, Larry Holmes went on to beat Ray Mercer, the same Ray Mercer that gave Lennox Lewis hell. It was arguably a gift decision that Lennox.
Larry Holmes wasn't undefeated. He had lost twice to Michael Spinks already.
Bro, I think he was arguably undefeated though, because a lot of people felt like he got robbed in the Spinks fights. Because he made controversial comments in it about.
And a lot of people thought.
He probably thought he got robbed, but everybody else didn't.
A lot of people were saying Michael Spinks would beat Tyson as well.
Yeah. Frank Bruno as well at that time was quite hyped up. Tyson beat a lot of guys, man.
When Tyson stepped up and fought all-time greats, he lost them all. He lost all of those fights.
Well, I totally disagree with that. I totally disagree with that because that was 5-6 years after his prime. Because he went to prison as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, that's a good point. But the thing is, Spinks he wasn't in his prime either when he fought him.
What about Donovan? What about before prison? Donovan Razor Ruddock. People thought he might have been Tyson, but Tyson banged them out in 2 fights. Same thing. He would have run to Holyfield prior to prison. That Tyson that fought Ruddock would have banged Holyfield down.
See, that's the problem. It's a bunch of what have, could have, should have, or he would have. He didn't.
Yeah, but bro, he only lost in his apart from that, no one really counts the Lennox Lewis fight because Tyson was washed up and done in it. But as far as losing to Evander Holyfield, Evander Holyfield himself is an ATG, bro, and Holyfield himself has got even more losses than Tyson. So to hold that against him, I think it's not fair.
And James Toney beat Holyfield.
When Holyfield and Tyson fought in the mid-90s, that was fair because both of them were not in their prime, right? They were out of their prime, so it's even Stevens. But
Tyson was in his 20s.
Holyfield was in his prime. Tyson wasn't in his prime.
No, he wasn't. Holyfield was in his prime in the early 90s.
No, bro, I feel like they're both
Tyson would have banged him out in the early 90s. Tyson would have banged him out early 90s.
Holyfield didn't even admit that Mike Tyson's head movement when he left Kevin Rooney was more predictable because back in those days he was more broken. Before he went to prison, he was more broken rhythm. So when he came back out of prison, he was more like robotic, basic.
Yep.
Evander Holyfield admitted that in the interview.
How old was Tyson when Tyson fought Holyfield in the first fight? How old was Mike Tyson?
I think it's 31.
31, yeah.
That's not very old. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
Yeah, but a lot of things, a
as
lot of
Larry
things have
mentioned
happened
one,
in his life,
as Larry
right?
Mike
mentioned
was a
once said,
cokehead though, bro. Mike Tyson was a cokehead though when he came out of prison, bro. This guy
yeah,
used to take like cocaine all the
A lot of
time.
things have happened like in Mike Tyson's short
I
life,
mean, whose fault
which
is
would
that
have
though?
influenced which would have influenced his performances. Like he had been through a lot. Let's be honest. You know, when he
Yeah, he was
fought
raped as
Holyfield.
a child. Yeah, he took drugs. Like went to
No, but
prison
that
for
I mean,
false
like
rape.
when Customata was with him, he had him under control. But like after that, there's a lot of things that took place in Mike Tyson's life that's not good for an athlete, man. That's not good. Like that, you know, an athlete's never gonna be the same. Like after going through all of that, like going through all of
Yeah,
that
Robin Givens.
controversy, going through all of that, you know, it's hard to judge because we don't know. You know, we don't know if Mike Tyson, when he was under Custamato, had fought Evander Holyfield, right, and he had Mike Tyson geared and all in control, and I don't know if Evander Holyfield could have beaten that Mike Tyson. You know, it's just
I
if
mean, when Customato had Mike Tyson, Customato was like in his what 80s, 90s. I mean, they should have been discussing a strategy for when that happens because it was it was inevitable.
yeah,
So
I
I
get
mean,
your
for
point,
for
but
them to have
I
no
don't think you
plan,
ever. I don't think you ever, you know, you plan for someone's death. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
he
know.
was old as hell.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but
He
what?
Plus Tyson is
he
like
trained Floyd
mentally
Patterson
ill.
was the champion in the 50s, and that was he was training him. So he had to be like in his 40s or 50s in the 50s. You get all the way up to the 80s, you know he's not gonna last that long.
Yeah, plus when you mix mental illnesses, like Mike Tyson was the guy, let's be honest, this guy's mentally ill, innit? Like when you mix mental illness with drugs, that's never going to end well for a fighter or an athlete.
Yeah,
He
I'm
doesn't
not
have
sure.
mental illness anymore, though.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson is good now. He doesn't have mental illness anymore.